Chapter 455. Remember, I do not only have you as my only son. No choice, the basic price is not cheap. We spent a lot of effort in the past. Of course, the most important thing is, in the entire Heavens Road, there are no other branches. Three Spirits City has become the crux of the entire strategy. Look at my sincerity. I'm already so old, my mouth is already dry. Just give me a number. Dao Dun's face turned gloomy. He said, "You are my son, but no one can stand above the Fan family. You were bewitched by that woman in the past. I will not pursue your wrongdoings. But you have to go to Sai Lei and beg for forgiveness. There is no room for discussion. If you can't do it, I will chase you out of the family." In this period of time, the higher-ups of the Grandmaster Association had been thinking and worrying about how to protect themselves. The inheritance of Libra constellation was proficient in fine control, which led to their usage and research of martial techniques, leaning towards living. And in terms of fighting martial techniques, there was nothing to write home about. The middle-aged man mumbled, "It's just Ursa Major constellation." Mechanical armies were undoubtedly the most suitable fighting units for Libra constellation, because their technical requirements were the highest. Libra constellation had a mechanical grandmaster, and more importantly, Libra constellation's various industries and techniques were extremely robust once they completed a breakthrough in their basic mechanical spirit weapons. With their technical reserves, they could quickly break through. Both parties exchanged blows and very quickly came to an agreement. A resounding slap to the face. His mind suddenly surfaced the lonely little girl when she left the Fan family, that pair of stubborn eyes. It was done by Madame Chu-Shi. The old man said, Sai Lei's mother's corpse had a slow-acting poison. It was the green vine that the Chu family released in the past 2 years. From the looks of it, the green vine should have just been completed. In the past, Mo Wei Tian, that old profiteer, sold a broken one for 20 million, and Bing felt that selling it for 80 million was a good thing. Family patriarch Dao Dun Fan's face was flushed red. He was so angry that his entire body was trembling. "You want the mechanical spirit weapon technology? If it's too powerful, we can't sell it to you, but the basics are not a problem. From Lupus constellation to Andromeda constellation, from Andromeda constellation to Ursa Major constellation, everyone knew he was a thorn. You're so good at leading soldiers and doing business. You have a bright future. Since you've said so, I can only accept it. I heard that your army has already been disbanded. Why don't you pack up all the mechanical spirit weapons and sell them to me? Although I, the great Libra, am not as rich as the Aquarius gold, but I am definitely more than that." He had followed the old master for dozens of years, so he understood this seemingly random sentence. If Sai Lei forgave her father, this matter would naturally be sealed. If Sai Lei did not, then young master she, and Madame Chu-Shi, basic, that's fine too. My great Libra doesn't have a lot of things, but it does have a lot of masters. If I can get a good grasp of the basics, I'll become more profound in the blink of an eye. At that time, it's hard to say who's more profound. If not, to wait for them to introduce their own mechanical weapons and then start training, it would be too late. But Libra constellation was the most open-minded constellation in the 12 ecliptic palaces. Regardless of what theories were there, they would not be viewed as heresy, and many of Onyxol's grandmasters liked to live in seclusion in Libra constellation. There were many grandmasters in the Grandmaster Association, although their attainments in the mechanical domain were limited, but they had a deep understanding of technology and the changes in the world. "You better think clearly." Dao Dun's tone was cold. "I will not let him drag everyone down with him. Have you investigated the matter that year? You must have evidence." When the middle-aged man left dejectedly, an old man appeared like a ghost. He sighed, "Old master, young master, she's just muddled for a moment. He will think clearly." For some reason, his heart felt a chill. Libra constellation, one of the 12 ecliptic palaces. But it was not as declining as Scorpio constellation, nor as prosperous as Leo constellation. It had always been a middle constellation in the 12 ecliptic palaces, neither high nor low. It was because of this good atmosphere that Libra constellation became the constellation with the most craftsmen and had all sorts of martial artists there. There were many associations in Libra constellation, the Craftsman Association, the Martial Artist Association, etc., but the most powerful one was none other than the Grandmaster Association. Almost 80% of the core associations in Libra constellation were all under the Grandmaster Association. Ifan's family. Just Ursa, major constellation? Dao Dun was so angry that he laughed. The Libra constellation's Grandmaster Association is so stupid to spend around 500 billion to buy those trash. Let me tell you, they're expressing their goodwill to Tang Tian. The Ursa major constellation that you look down on, they're thinking of ways to befriend you. Let me tell you now, this matter, if you do not settle it, I will raise a suggestion to the clan elder to hold you accountable. Mo Lung lived in seclusion, concentrating on tinkering with his own mechanical weapons. Sky Marshal Wolf Academy had a total of 5,600 sets of mechanical spirit weapons. Each set was sold to the Grandmaster Association for 80 million star coins, for a total of 448 billion. How stupid is the Ifan family? Just at this time, the mechanical army appeared in their vision, immediately attracting their attention. The fundamental mechanical spirit weapon technology was sold to the Grandmaster Association for 20 billion star coins. Both parties were satisfied. Jealousy is truly a sin. Dao Dun seemed to be sighing. After a moment, he suddenly sneered. Only forgiveness can save. The little girl did not cry. Bing was naturally satisfied, especially the 5,600 sets of used mechanical spirit weapons, to be able to be sold for 448 billion. His heart was blooming with joy. Silei's new model had already started to take shape, and a change of equipment was already on the agenda. He had originally planned to use these old mechanical spirit weapons for the reserve force training, but he did not expect to directly sell them. The Grandmaster Association's entry requirements were extremely strict, and only the top talents of each profession had the chance to enter. But the Grandmasters were usually immersed in their own research, and were not interested in other matters, so the association arranged for many elders. These elders were in charge of the daily work, and had profound attainments and techniques, so they held great authority in the association. Many of the elders were sharp enough to realize that the combination of the martial spirit and mechanical weapons had given the ancient and declining techniques a new pair of wings, and its future potential was huge. And the knowledgeable elders were filled with worry for the chaotic world. Could Libra constellation still maintain its neutrality in the chaotic world? Even if they joined a faction, how could they protect their own benefits? Libra constellation that only had techniques in front of blades and spears was just a plump milk cow. Although there were no rivers of blood, no massacres, but they were definitely not benevolent, Mr. Goodfellas. Lawless and out of control, vengeful, with just a word of disagreement, they would fight. If they wanted to stretch their hands into his bowl, he would definitely raise his blade and not let them off. That won't do. We still have to train. We still have to prepare for war. We still have to. In a short few hours, a huge contract with a total value of 468 billion star coins was formed. The Grandmaster Association hoped to directly bring 3 Spirit City into the association. But as the information continued to be perfected and the Tang Tian backing 3 Spirit City surfaced, the higher-ups very rationally threw that idea away. The 12 Ecliptic Palace's armies were indeed stronger. Their martial artists were stronger, but all of this strength was only on paper. How many years had it been since their military generals had fought a battle? The only thing that could be considered as a real battle was suppressing bandits. Their strength on paper was indeed not strong, but they were like a hurricane, defeating one army after another. The news of Libra Constellation's Grandmaster Association cooperating with 3 Spirits City quickly spread, and Guangmo went to Libra Constellation to conduct his own research there. But although Guangmo was a mechanical Grandmaster, but in the Grandmaster Association, his position was not high, and that was because of the decline of mechanical techniques. Although Ursa Major Constellation was only a 3rd-grade constellation, but Tang Tian was not someone to be trifled with. In the past, to be able to obtain victory after victory in the battlefield, there was only this young lad Tang who acted dumb on the surface, but was actually a scheming person. The middle-aged man covered his face, dumbstruck. Young lad Tang's reputation was completely built from fighting and killing. Both sides immediately started to negotiate amicably. The middle-aged man was stunned. He did not dare believe his own ears, and only reacted after a while and screamed, "You're crazy. I am your son." You. An elder Shao was extremely satisfied, although 468 billion seemed to be a huge loss for them. But the war was nearing, and to them, the most important thing was not star coins, but time. All these second-hand mechanical spirit weapons, not only could they be used as research targets, they could also allow them to immediately organize mechanical martial artists to start training. In front of him, a middle-aged man drooped his head, looking dispirited. Elder Shao was one of them, and the grandmasters he was in charge of included the mechanical grandmaster Guanji Mo. Before Sai Lei obtained the title of grandmaster, there were two publicly acknowledged grandmasters in the mechanical world, and they were the Mo families Mo Lung and Guanji Mo. The old man's heart turned cold. Do you know who the master of Three Spirits City is? It's that lunatic Tang Tian, the lunatic who used the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique on me. That lunatic who would go up and bite you for no reason, and you still dare to provoke him? He does not even give face to Onyxol in the Honorable Martial Alliance. Who do you think you are? Dao Dun scolded. Dao Dun's words were cold without any warmth, causing the middle-aged man to feel as though he had fallen into an ice cellar. Libra Constellation, who had straightened his attitude, became extremely courteous. Cooperation. Everyone is cooperating. You name a price, I'll buy it. If I can buy it with money, why fight and kill? Especially the meeting between Sai Lei, Mo Lung, and Guanji Mo, the three mechanical grandmaster, made all the mechanical enthusiasts extremely excited. It was the first meeting between the three mechanical grandmaster, and in the eyes of the mechanical enthusiasts, it was the symbol of the revival of mechanical techniques. The middle-aged man was completely dumbstruck. Sai Lei's creation of the mechanical spirit weapons did not cause any waves in Libra Constellation until the Battle of Ursa Major Constellation, where the mechanical army performed outstandingly, causing the mechanical techniques to become extremely popular, and Guanji Mo's position quickly rose. Are you a pig? How can you be so stupid? Now the entire Heaven's Road is laughing at us. Even the stingiest and stingiest old man Go is King laughing at us. Why didn't you investigate first? Why didn't you ask the clan elder for instructions for such a huge matter? Chapter 456. Tang, he didn't mind. He was a general. He just needed to lead his troops and fight. The Blue Whale army had 3,000 men, while the Lupus army only had 200 men. The disparity in strength between both parties was obvious, if not for the army undergoing the special training at the Bear Egg, causing all of their true power to break through to the 7th level. The Lupus army's strength would have increased tremendously. This sudden news immediately disrupted all of Bing's arrangements, and he rushed back to Ursa Major Constellation overnight. Upon returning to Ursa Major Constellation, he knew that the situation was much worse than he had imagined. If not for the fact that the road leading to the Southern Cross Constellation was already in a state of war, Tang Tian would not even have the interest to stay here. Master Bing did not have much interest in Ursa Major Constellation. To Master Bing, Ursa Major Constellation was just a temporary training camp. The reason why it was temporary was because Master Bing felt that Ursa Major Constellation's star power concentration was not high enough. He knew that his own standards could not be compared to Tang Yi. Of course not. Tang Yi did not enter the city. His army was a cavalry, and the city was not suitable for them. Moreover, the people of this city did not welcome them. In the blink of an eye, the famous Ursa Major Constellation had sunk into an unprecedented crisis. The flames of war rose in all directions, and the city was in imminent danger. Overall, the results are pretty good. The ones with the best results were the Lupus martial artists, because their average level of true power was very low, around the 5th level. After this period of special training, their true power level had generally increased by 1.5 levels, and there were a few Lupus martial artists who were originally at the 6th level with decent talent, and were now at the 7th level. If they could complete the special training, some of them might even be able to break through to the 8th order. Adrian's tone was full of regret. Because of the collaboration with the Grandmaster Association, Mo Wei Tian was determined to move his entire family into Three Spirit City. The situation around the Mo family's residence was not safe. There were already many unknown martial artists appearing. But to make this decision, Mo Wei Tian mustered up enough courage. This meant that the Mo family had completely joined Tang Tian's system and was no longer an independent entity. Todd Dunn replied, "Most of them have reached the Type 8 level, but about 30% of them are still stuck at the Type 7 level." At this crucial moment, a battle report made Bing rush back to Ursa Major Constellation. Bing was satisfied. He had obtained the information he wanted. The reason why he dared to pull all the armies back for special training and dared to sell all 5,600 mechanical spirit weapons was naturally because he had something to rely on. Others only thought that he was blinded by greed, but they didn't know that for someone like him who had an instinctive desire for war, how could he not have a trump card? After a while, a Lupus tribe elder stammered, "Will this work?" As for Tang Tian and the others, the longer they could hold on, the more advantages they would have. "Of course, you're courting death if you rob them in front of them. What shall we do?" No matter how strong they were still humans. They would get tired too. That would be our chance. If there's a chance, we'll stab them twice. If there's no chance, we'll just howl at the side. If they chase after us, we'll run. It's simple. Bing said calmly. The Blue Whale army could not do anything to Tang Yi's Lupus army. The army came and went like the wind, and the Blue Whale army did not have mounts and could not catch up. What was worse was that the Lupus army could conceal themselves, and their attacks were sharp and incisive. If they sent too few people, they would be swallowed by the enemy. Bing's trump card was the 1,000,000 Lupus martial artists. The 3 saints of Cetus constellation suddenly disappeared. Humans have to think of a way. There's a tactic in the art of war called fortify the walls and clear the fields. We are going to bandit poison field. Bing's poker face smiled, his finger drawing a big circle on the star map. "Oh, bandit poison field is too small. It's boring. If we want to play, we'll play it big." Bing scoffed. "Of course, we can't go head-to-head with the 3 fish army. They're still very powerful. As for the plateau army of Andromeda constellation, what was the use of a 4th-grade army?" Bing said boldly. "Positional warfare? Io, such a tactic that doesn't require any technique. Why would we do it? We'll do what we do, Rob. Go and greet them properly." Only he could bring the Sky Martial Wolf Academy's mechanical spirit weapons to 3 Spirit City. 5,600 mechanical spirit weapons. Even if he used the Silver Aquarius cabinet, Bing would still be exhausted. The opponent came prepared. Bing acted as though he did not hear anything, coughed lightly, and said, "As for us, the most important thing is to stall for time. Since we are stalling for time, then that's easy. Other than being cannon fodder in the battlefield, what other abilities do we have? Bandits, oh my, 1,000,000 bandits, and it's 1,000,000 Lupus bandits that have reached the 6th level and awakened their blood meridians." North Peace City. With the addition of the Mo family, Silei's new model had improved by leaps and bounds. Bing's face was all smiles. So Tang, he was indifferent towards Cetus constellation occupying North Peace City. The one occupying North Peace City was the Cetus constellation's Blue Whale army. Ursa Major constellation had 3 armies, White Whale, Black Whale, and Blue Whale army. The Blue Whale army was the weakest out of the 3 armies, but even this army had more people than the Lupus army. The elders of the Lupus army looked at each other. All of them were frightened by Bing's suggestion. His heart was filled with worry. The Plateau army soldiers had an average standard of the 7th level, but for an army like Cetus constellation, their soldiers had an average standard of the 8th level. That was a huge gap, although true power could not directly determine strength. But the difference between the 2 parties could be seen. Everyone then understood Bing's idea, and all of their eyes lit up, although it was a wretched idea. But to stall for time, it was not bad. Tang, he had been promoted to a major, and his command had suddenly increased to 2,500 men. In Three Spirit City had magic flute holding the fort, so Bing brought Tang Yi back to Ursa Major constellation and prepared to expand the Lupus army. Just like what he thought, the White Whale army and Black Whale army were irresistible and attacked the city. North P City was once one of the important cities of Ursa Major constellation. The concentration of star power there was extremely good, and thus produced martial artists, and a few King Bear martial artists came from North P City. But Yin Yong Lai's final mobilization caused all the martial artists in the city to enter Orion constellation. The current North P City was desolate, and was no longer as flourishing as before. Imminent danger? Being sneered, he stood up. Under the stimulation of money, Bing erupted with limitless potential and finally completed the delivery of all the mechanical spirit weapons. Tang Yi was chased back to Ursa Major constellation to prepare for the expansion of the Lupus army. With the money, Tang Cho immediately started a strategy for Fornax constellation and started to continuously choose outstanding mechanical martial artists to join his army. Yin Yong Lai's imprint on Ursa Major constellation could not be erased in a short period of time. Long Shou Jing's face revealed a look of shame. He knew that in a battle, three saints could form a destructive force. The sudden disappearance of the three saints was like a dagger hidden in the darkness that could deliver a fatal blow at any time. Bear Egg's special training was interrupted, and Bing listened to Adrian's summary report. Everyone's faces turned white, and they trembled in fear. Cetus constellation had launched an attack on Ursa Major constellation. Ling Su looked at Bing and corrected, "Whales are not fishes." Even the opponent, Bing secretly praised Cetus constellation's choice of time. Tang Tian's whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique had not ended, and regarding the special training at Bear Egg, the opponent must have already found out about it, and it was undoubtedly the best opportunity. The mechanical army's equipment were all sold to Libra constellation, and the students of the Sky Wolf Martial Academy were basically unable to fight. Mo Wei Tian was clear, compared to working together, the Grandmaster Association's resources were obviously richer, and their strength was many times stronger. If it was like before, the MO family's usefulness to Three Spirit City would decrease, and the MO family would be in a disadvantageous position. It was not only Tang Tian who did not care, even Crane and the rest did not care, because they all knew that Tang Tian had no interest in ruling over a constellation. What the fool wanted to do the most was to kill his way to Southern Cross constellation in one breath. Because Tang, he had already led the Lupus army out. For a unique military general like Tang Yi, who had specialized tactics, and the soldiers under him had activated the ancient wolf race's blood meridians. Only then could he contend against the middle-level armies. From here to here is the only way to Bear Egg. All of the Lupus martial artists split up and scatter into this region. My request is simple, that is to turn this place into a bandit swamp. The Lupus army appeared and disappeared around them, causing the Blue Whale army to be extremely tense, and their speed of advancement was as slow as a tortoise. "Where is Tang Yi?" Bing asked. Furthermore, there was M.O. Lung, the mechanical grandmaster engineer. From then on, Three Spirit City had two mechanical grandmaster engineers overseeing it, and without question, Three Spirit City was the true #1 mechanical city. Who knew that it would be a lucky hit? Bing completely ignored everyone's murderous gazes and said, "So I have prepared many small toys for everyone. They're all good stuff from the Blood Meridian's laboratory. Whatever poison, knockout drugs, self-destructing beasts, everyone bring more. Relax. The usage is simple. Whatever water source, bury it in the ground. Throw the poison into the clouds. Don't take it to heart. If a saint is so easily monitored, he would not be a saint." Bing consoled Long Shou Jing. His face did not show any signs of panic. Bing did not comment, and turned to ask to Dun, "What about the Plateau Army?" The MO family's arrival had increased the strength of Three Spirit City. The MO family was one of the few mechanical aristocratic families. The number of mechanical engineers and their standard were all very good. Bing was as busy as a bee. Luckily for the general of the Blue Whale army, he was clear as long as he could delay the Lupus army, he had already completed his mission. The entire Ursa major constellation was left with only one army with fighting strength. Three-Spirit City was also in a mess. The Mo family had moved into Three-Spirit City, and the matters involved were complicated, causing Pai Pa and the rest to be extremely tired. Tang, he tried to attack a few times, but the opponent's military leader was extremely cautious and did not reveal any flaws. The opponent's formation was too thick, and Tang, he did not dare to rush in too deep. If they waited for Tang Tian to succeed in tempering his spirit, and the special training ended, then the close to 500 billion star coins would be digested, and a new model of mechanical spirit weapons would be equipped, and that would be Cetus Constellation's nightmare. At this time, joining Three-Spirit City was a kind of declaration. Chapter 457. Gong Qing gently took a sip of red wine. Over at Three-Spirit City, does Elder Zhang have any thoughts? If we don't take action now, wouldn't it benefit others? Although my superior has already degenerated, my pursuit of the path of a famous general will not change no matter what. Tang Chou coldly threw down these words and swaggered off. How many days has it been? Fu Yin felt that the only thing he could think of was to ask for help. Ask for help from the Emperor. Ask for help from the Honorable Martial Alliance. He stared blankly into the distance, and suddenly felt that from here to Bear Egg, it was so far away. Little Cho, don't be like that. Bing laughed and flicked a cigarette. Do you know what I like the most about this era? It's that everyone doesn't know that I am a famous general. Haha, I can finally do whatever I want. Bing laughed out loud, one hand on Tang Chao's shoulder, the other holding the cigarette and waving it in the air. Don't be so inflexible. As a person, the most important thing is to be flexible. Being flexible is the true way to win. They will have a way, right? Elder Zhang smiled. Tang Tian, although he is arrogant, but he does have some ability. But as the saying goes, when things reach an extreme, he is currently flushed with success and is not as cautious as before and has given us the opportunity to take advantage of him. Gong Qing did not say anything and only smiled as he raised the wine in his hand. We have more and more allies. That shows how popular the Honorable Martial Alliance is. Don't worry, Elder. Once we occupy Ursa Major Constellation, we will continue to support the Honorable Group's battle in Orion Constellation. But the most discussed topic in the banquet was still the war against Ursa Major Constellation. It was the first time in many years that Cetus Constellation initiated a war. In the first few days, everyone was still apprehensive, but very quickly, the development of the war caused everyone's mood to become fervent. Gong Qing was happy in his heart, but his face remained calm. It is still too early to talk about this. That's right. How is the situation at Orion Constellation? Has there been any movements from Leo Constellation recently? In the blink of an eye, close to half of Ursa Major Constellation's planets had been occupied. The success of the war caused everyone in Cetus Constellation to be excited. Half of Ursa Major Constellation is already in His Majesty's hands. As long as we obtain the Desolate Barebone, the two constellations will merge, and Cetus Constellation will definitely become an Ecliptic Palace grade constellation. Elder Zhang said respectfully. In the blink of an eye, all kinds of poisonous substances piled up like a mountain. The old men and women in Three-Spirit City's Blood Meridian's laboratory were all boiling with excitement, as though they were injected with chicken blood. All the Blood Meridian specialists only had one feeling, and that was exhilaration. Bing affectionately stood on the podium of the Blood Meridian's laboratory and gave a passionate speech. How many people were there in a million? Everyone here is an elite, all of them at the 8th level of strength. Not sleeping for a few days is nothing. I will endure it. But after 5 days, Fu Yin finally understood what it meant to be a man made of iron and a woman made of steel. Although the number of casualties was not high, it was a huge blow to their morale. Gong Qing was a little surprised. What is it? All the soldiers heaved a sigh of relief. They could finally have a good sleep. Fu Yin turned around and looked at everyone. Everyone's green faces were filled with exhaustion. Those bastards didn't even let them sleep in the middle of the night. Whenever they set up camp, there would always be a large rain of arrows flying over. These arrows were powerful and ridiculously accurate. After a few nights of annoyance, everyone finally got used to it and slept with their shields on their heads. All right, let's just pretend it's raining. These descendants of the aristocratic families had eyes and ears everywhere, so they knew all the inside information. The puddle was slightly big. Since 5 days ago, they had started to encounter all sorts of harassment, attacks, and poisons. At the start, Fu Yin planned to wipe out all the bandits. But very quickly, he realized that if he sent too few people, they would be swallowed by the other party. If he sent more, the other party would run away. Fu Yin might as well just send the experts in the army, thinking to start a massacre. At the start, seeing the experts like eagles catching chicks, sweeping everything before them, Fu Yin was excited. In the end, the expert flew up into the sky, and upon entering the clouds, he fell down like a sandbag, smashing into pieces. Bing was stunned, then laughed out loud. Aha! Little Clown is getting more and more interesting. This is a good sign. Relax, relax. We will win very soon. The two of them looked at each other and laughed, then clinked their cups and drank. Every Blood Meridian specialist had a wild beast roaring in their hearts. It's finally our turn. No one felt it more deeply than Fu Yin. His face was so gloomy that it seemed as though 3 kilograms of water could be squeezed out. That year, when he rejected Tang Tian from entering Cetus Major Constellation, it was his idea. When Tang Tian seized Ursa Major Constellation, his mood was obvious. This time, he was the most proactive. Was it easy? He didn't need to turn his head to know that the soldiers behind him weren't any better off than Shui Chun. Rotten and depraved, Bing opened his eyes wide. He could not believe his ears, but after a while, he reacted and roared at Tang Chao's back. Hey, come back. Explain to me what is rotten and depraved. In the end, in the rain of arrows, there were more than 10 poison sacks mixed in, although the martial artists on duty blocked most of them. But 2 of the poison sacks fell into the camp and killed more than 30 people. Tang Cho interrupted Bing's words. Be a man? Master, please face the fact that you are a spirit general, living under the shadow of a broken woman who forged iron. How humiliating it was. Other than the Blue Whale Army being held back, their speed was slower. The White Whale Army and the Black Whale Army were like a hot knife through butter, continuously occupying many planets. Seeing Tang Chao's disappearing back, Bing laughed involuntarily, fiercely inhaling the cigarette in his hand, and muttered to himself, Little wimp, with just a bit of ability, he's so rebellious, sigh. It's not easy to be a parent. This kind of fellow, only Crazy Tang can educate him. Sigh, this is a good idea. I am truly too wretched. No, too genius. But with military merits, he would have a bright future, and after becoming rich, would he be afraid of not having any beauties? The key was, under such extreme fatigue, under such a tense situation, he still had to endure the scolding and ridicule of these assholes day and night. A bunch of 6th-level little farts ridicule. 3 Spirit City. Ever since then, no one dared to fly in the air anymore. Inside the palace, there were songs and dances. The seats were filled with distinguished guests, and beauties were as common as the clouds. Elder Zhang's expression congealed and sighed. An inch of mountains and rivers, an inch of blood. This Tang Tian is so lucky. Yin Yonglai had already thrown him to Orion Constellation, and this fellow took it without any effort. We were not so lucky at Orion Constellation, but the situation was good, just that our losses were greater. But we have new reinforcements. Elder Zhang shook his head. Your Majesty, please forgive me, I cannot say that yet. The other party came and went like the wind, with 300 to 500 people in groups. Fu Yin almost thought that he had entered a bandit's lair. Wrong. This place could already be called a bandit's sacred land. Gong Qing was surprised. He slowly pondered over the words in his heart. After a moment, he revealed a smile. Seems like I was overthinking. Cetus Constellation. This time, the experts in the army were not willing to move out. There were already 4 martial artists who lost control of their emotions and injured 6 of their comrades. Every step they took, they were extremely careful. Something could appear in the ground at any time. As for what it was, it depended on luck. There were already 20 people in the army who had their legs broken, Some were poisoned, some were cut off by the mechanisms, some were exploded by the self-destructing beasts. Stop. Set up camp here. Stay further away from the water. Split into two groups. One group will rest, the other will stand guard. No matter what happens, you are not to go out to battle. Fu Yin was strong. He knew, if the soldiers under him did not rest, there would be a mutiny. The position was not bad. It was at least 10 li away from the forest, and, within the surrounding 5 to 6 li, there was nothing to hide. It was not easy to have a chance to show off. How could everyone not put in all their effort? When he saw the figures disappearing into the forest, and the strange green color reflected by the puddles in front of him, he was enraged, burning his liver in pain. All the water sources were poisoned. The powerful martial artists could, of course, use true power to protect their meridians, but the ordinary soldiers would suffer. The army was equipped with blood meridian specialists who were proficient in poisons, but the enemy had too many types of poisons. Even the army's blood meridian specialist was poisoned and was still groaning in the carriage. Fu Yin was not very sure. The number of bandits, the density was so high, it was enough to make one's hair stand, and the methods of the bandits was even more outrageous. So, the crux of this battle will all depend on everyone. As long as everyone can produce sufficient and effective poisons, our initiative on the battlefield can be guaranteed. Tang Cho stood by Bing's side, watching coldly. As a famed general, to use such despicable, wretched, and sinister tactics, it is truly despicable. Gong Qing laughed, although he was already over 60 years old. But he looked to be around 40 years old, and did not look old at all. His actions were refined, and he bowed back. I still have to thank Elder Zhang. Without your information, who would have known that Ursa Major Constellation was bluffing, and was actually so weak? The green puddles in front of them caused everyone to stop in their tracks. At the start, when everyone met with the puddles, they would fly over from above. With everyone's light body techniques, flying over the puddles was a piece of cake. In the end, there was one time when a small group flew above the puddles like dumplings. Plop, plop, they fell into the puddles, and after a few minutes, a layer of bones floated up. Tang Cho walked forward without turning his head, his voice drifting with the wind. If Master is unable to win, you can swap subordinates to fight. We will definitely win. This time, no one dared to sleep anymore. Tang Cho said coldly. The so-called famed general, shouldn't they have a prideful heart and devotion to war? Master, please conduct yourself with dignity. The people next door were simply a group of beasts. A pile of scrap metal could be sold for close to 500 billion star coins, and in a moment, they had crushed this side score to almost zero. The young aristocratic disciples in the competition grounds did not place their attention on the beauties, but were fervently discussing if they should bring their families' guards to Ursa Major Constellation to earn some military merits. Fu Yin was on the verge of crying. He had never met such a despicable, treacherous, despicable, and unscrupulous opponent. Congratulations, Your Majesty. A white-robed old man smiled and greeted Gong Qing. Elder Zhang said profoundly, Three-Spirit City is a delicious cake. Some people want to eat it. Some people want to destroy it. Chapter 458. Bell passed the information of the martial artist to Tang Cho, who politely replied, Thank you. After his speech, Gong Qing drank some water to moisten his throat. The battle report immediately caused an uproar. No one thought that the Ursa Major Constellation would be so shameless and use such despicable methods. Tang Tian's previous battles were all tough battles, causing people to admire his bravery and martial prowess. But this battle immediately changed the direction of the wind. Because of this, Tang Cho submitted a proposal to reorganize the base's defense, which was quickly passed. The current Three-Spirit City's importance was obvious, and although there were many martial artists in Three-Spirit City, most of them were mechanical martial artists. These years, mechanical martial artists' individual strengths were generally lower, and when they formed an army, their fighting strength would increase, but against experts who came and went like the wind, they were still relatively passive. After signing the martial spirit contract, there was no possibility of betrayal, and everyone's gazes immediately became more relaxed. At first, they were shocked and angry. They were shocked because Tang Cho had seen through them so thoroughly. They were angry because their weaknesses were publicly revealed, causing them to feel a sense of danger. Belle looked at Tang Cho strangely. As an intelligence officer, her senses were extremely sharp. She felt that Tang Cho seemed to have an obvious change, although Tang Cho was as polite as before. This brat seems to have really become stronger. The martial artists did not show any arrogance. Their professionalism was still relatively good. More importantly, before coming, Belle had shown them the video of the battle where they defeated the Flowing Wind group and told them that the commander of the army in the video was Tang Cho. Tang Cho seemed to know what they were thinking. With one sentence, he immediately made them quiet down. "Your Majesty is truly benevolent." Elder Zhang immediately praised. Everyone agreed that they needed stronger defense, so the job of recruiting people was handed over to Belle. "But if we let this group of great honorable light blood meridian specialists return alive, it will be very embarrassing. Hey, I'm not a person to stir up trouble, but if this happened to me, I will definitely not be able to tolerate it. Wang Bo, your rod techniques are extremely sharp, but your problem is as long as your attacks are continuously blocked more than 6 times, your rhythm will start to become messed up. And when your rod techniques are connected, there will be obvious pauses. This will become your weakness, and your lower body is too low, although it allows you to stabilize your center of gravity, but you will instead restrict your attacking area." Tang Xiao's comment completely awed these martial artists. Gong Qing's speech was inspiring, and all the Cetus martial artists' eyes lit up. Lupus bandits? It was said that he was a martial artist from a remote village with a star power concentration of only 1%. Moreover, the reward was 10,000 star coins. Elder Zhang exclaimed in admiration. His Majesty's speech just now was simply brilliant. 10,000 star coins for a head. Only His Majesty could think of such a brilliant idea. With a mere 10 billion star coins, you managed to destroy 1,000,000 lupus warriors. I'm truly in awe of you. Tang Xiao's voice was very calm, but it contained a convincing force. Belle had always been observing in the dark, so when Tang Xiao's proposal passed, Belle quickly took action, and in a short period of time, recruited 20 strong martial artists. A smile appeared on Gong Qing's face. "Then I'm relieved." Tang Cho brought them to the training field and conducted extremely complicated and meticulous tests on them. There are many types of tests, many of which had never been heard of before. The martial artists were interested and curious, and everyone completed the test with great interest. They are all famous martial artists on the Heaven's Road list, but there are no gold-ranked martial artists. There are very few gold-ranked martial artists that do not have a master. Out of these 20 people, there are 3 who are ranked between 4,000 to 6,000 in Heaven's Road, and the rest are 17 people who are ranked after 6,000. This is their information. The rest, I'll leave it to you. Get rid of them." Gong Qing was delighted, and his face revealed a reserved smile. If he wants to use the human wave tactic against us, then we can only accompany him. I don't know if the Lupus clan will be exterminated this time. This makes me feel uneasy. All of you have already signed the martial spirit contract. From today onwards, all of you will be teammates. Your teammates understand your weaknesses, and that is more important than understanding your strengths, because the former can prevent you from dying, and the latter can often bring you victory. Belle could clearly see that every single martial artist had an unnatural expression on their faces. A few of them were perspiring profusely, holding onto their weapons tightly. Belle was extremely surprised. Could it be that through these tests, Tang Cho had already completely understood the situation of these martial artists? A person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. The Flowing Wind group's fearsome name made these martial artists look up to Tang Cho. And with the Honorable Martial Alliance sending out a group of blood meridian specialists, everyone was more assured. To achieve a better battle result, we need to try out different combinations and also need to formulate a corresponding strategy. If Tang Cho became stronger, that would be a good thing. Although up till now, the dangers that the base had encountered could only be considered as daunting but not dangerous, but it still made Belle extremely worried, especially as the Three Spirits City received more and more attention. The number of people mixed into the three-spirit city also increased rapidly. Elder Zhang immediately said, "Your Majesty, rest assured, the Honorable Martial Group's group of Blood Meridian Specialists have already set off. They're the most experienced Blood Meridian Specialists of the Honorable Martial Group. Their strength is definitely strong." Could it be that something happened to this guy? At this time, to be able to recruit such high-quality martial artists in such a short period of time, Bell's work could be said to be outstanding. Of course, the salary of these experts was also shocking. Every one of them had a settlement allowance of more than 1 billion. 20 of them would be 20 billion. But in the current three-spirit city, they were considered a small tyrant. Tang Cho did not look at the information in his hands, but took the lead and walked to the front. Bell was curious about how Tang Cho would train these martial artists and follow behind. Bell, who was in charge of intelligence, had a wide network of friends, and even had her own intelligence organization. But even so, she was only able to recruit 40 people. The wild beasts that were roaring in everyone's hearts all ran out. They were pulling their throats. Their faces were sinister, killing intent soaring. To be able to cultivate to such a stage, how could they be stupid? Three-Spirit City was like a delicious cake. Many people wanted to dip a finger into it. And looking at Heaven's Road, Three-Spirit City's strength was not considered strong. Tang Cho glanced at the martial artists behind Bell. There were roughly 40 of them. All of them were releasing their spirit chi, and their strength was not bad. Now that the world was in chaos, the status of martial artists had also risen. The crux was, it was hard to recruit them. There were so many rich people. As long as you had the ability, no matter how expensive it was, people would want you. I do not discriminate against the Honorable Martial Alliance. Really. Sita's constellation immediately flared up. She felt that it was inconceivable. In her eyes, all the tests were messy and broken, and she completely did not understand their use. "Kill them," someone shouted. Bell looked at Tang Cho deep in thought. Master Bing said that Tang Cho was a staff officer-type military general. Could it be that a staff officer-type military general was like that? But Pai Pa often praised Tang Cho for being powerful, but the two of them seemed to quarrel more often. Su Lei, your most proficient area of attack, is the area between 2M to 10M to your right. Your first counterattack, 75% of the attack, will habitually land in that area. Your powerful techniques have a probability of 83% of attacking that area. And below your left ribs is your weak point. All the Heaven Road list martial artists in front of him were like obedient students, well-behaved. TSK, a group of Blood Meridian Specialists. The Honorable Martial Alliance's most experienced group of Blood Meridian Specialists. When I heard the bad news, I was almost stunned. Then I suddenly reacted. They seem to be from the Honorable Martial Alliance. The Honorable Martial Alliance has Blood Meridians Specialists? The Honorable Martial Alliance actually wants to compete with us in Blood Meridian Specialists. So scary. Very quickly, Tang Cho let them directly feel his strength. Three-Spirit City. The defense of the base had always been a problem. Although there were layers of mechanisms, and there were armies stationed in the base, but against experts, they were always in a difficult situation. If not for Tang Yi, it would have been another tough battle. Please follow me. The old men and women below all pounded the ground and laughed without a care in the world. Most of them came from Onyx Soul, and upon hearing that the Honorable Martial Alliance actually wanted to compete with them in terms of Blood Meridians Specialists and poison, they immediately became happy. With regard to the group of Blood Meridian Specialists, I will have to trouble Elder. Gong Qing said. In the Blood Meridian's laboratory, Bing's frivolous words that were filled with ridicule resonated out, and from time to time, loud laughter could be heard. I only managed to recruit this many people. Bell said helplessly. This is enough to prove that the Ursa Major constellation is at the end of its road, and has exhausted all its tricks. They already have no other way to stop us. Brave warriors of Cetus constellation. Victory is right in front of us. As long as we put in a bit more effort, the Ursa Major constellation will be ours. Any hero that expands the territory of Cetus constellation will receive a fair reward. They're trying to use bandits to stop us, but they do not know those lowly lupus bandits will only become the souls under the blades of us Cetus Constellation martial artists. Our allies, the Honorable Martial Alliance, will send out their powerful blood meridian specialists to help us obtain victory. I will announce a bounty here. Any head of a lupus martial artist can receive a reward of 10,000 star coins. Brave warriors of Cetus Constellation, what are you waiting for? Immediately, it made the hearts of the less wealthy martial artists palpitate with excitement. That's right, their strength was ordinary, but no matter what, they were still stronger than the cannon fodder of Lupus Constellation. Fuyan's request for help reached Cetus Constellation, and, at the same time, the Black Whale Army's request for help arrived. This thought flashed past her mind, but she did not think much about it. In her mind, Tang Cho was a bookworm and completely did not have the air of a military general. Giving lessons to the mechanical martial artists every day was not something a military general should do. Chapter 459. Many of the ambitious poison-related blood meridian specialists were all aiming for this point, and almost all of them were mobilized. Such an opportunity was hard to come by a second time. This is Ursa Major Constellation. When the dumbstruck and shameless advertisement came out, the Onyx Soul's Blood Meridians specialists immediately went crazy. The few Blood Meridians specialists at the front all fell to the ground at the same time, and the martial artists beside them all had green faces, all of them using their true power to expel the poison. The other martial artists beside the Blood Meridians specialists all activated their true power barriers, protecting the Blood Meridians specialists inside. Pai Pa quickly skimmed through the report. Without raising her head, she said, "I never thought that we would lose." Onyx Soul's Blood Meridian specialists were all eager. When the Onyx Soul's Blood Meridian specialists heard that, they all sneered. Countless of history told her, any powerhouse, when they were all united, was extremely difficult to defeat. The majority of the Cetus martial artists had never come to Ursa Major Constellation before, so they could not help but look around curiously, since the reports from the front lines were spreading like wildfire. Ursa Major Constellation Star Door. In such a short period of time, it was naturally difficult to research out a new poison, but that did not mean they had no other methods. After being a blood meridian specialist for so many years, who did not have a few friends? When they all started to spread the news, the entire Onyx Soul system of blood meridian specialists were all alarmed. Ignoring the fact that both parties were mortal enemies, fighting openly and covertly, such a good opportunity, if they let it go, they would be struck by lightning. Just based on that sentence, the Onyx Soul's Blood Meridian specialists could not tolerate it. Poison research was not mainstream in the research of blood meridians, so the use of poison had never been widely acknowledged. The use of poison and the lack of actual battle cases made the use of poison not have much persuasion. That also caused the high-level poison's price to not be considered high in the market, and the blood meridian specialists that research poison were mostly poor. With that, all the Cetus martial artists could no longer sit still. Previously, the bounty for a lupus martial artist was 10,000 star coins, which only moved the hearts of the Cetus martial artists who were financially strapped. But to waive 3 years of star power usage fees, even the wealthy Cetus martial artists would move without hesitation. Compared to 500,000 star coins, it was much bigger. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew over. Not everyone was here for fame and fortune. Some people were here to test the actual combat ability of their works. Poison was a very different kind of work, especially those that had a large area of effect. The battlefield situation was complicated, and everyone's true power level and mental cultivation technique were different, so it was hard to determine how effective it was. Furthermore, bloodline specialists who specialize in toxins would never dare to experiment on humans. Doing so would result in a tragic death. In the crowd, a middle-aged man stared nervously at the image in front of him. When he saw the 3 bloodline specialists fall to the ground, his face lit up with joy. But following that, the other martial artists used their dense true power to dissolve the poison, causing his smile to freeze. Behind them, the tide-like whale cultivators were in an uproar. Many people revealed hesitant and cowering expressions because they suddenly realized that the situation was probably even more brutal than they'd imagined. He was dumbfounded. After a while, he subconsciously muttered to himself. Old Man Fei and the rest admired Master Bing to the point of prostrating before him. And if he said it another way, the effect would be completely different. They were immediately surrounded by countless Onyx Soul Blood Meridians experts. Uncle Bing is so sinister, so wretched. Belle's face was filled with praise. I suddenly have a feeling maybe we will win this time. So when the advertisement was spread around the various cities of Onyx Soul, it immediately struck the hearts of the Blood Meridians experts, who did not want to be acknowledged, who did not want to be rich, who did not want to be respected wherever they went. The Cetus constellation martial artists that were swarming over curiously looked around. It did not seem any different from other places. The number of Cetus martial artists that had swarmed into Ursa Major constellation was astonishing because 2 days ago, Gongqing had announced that as long as they killed 50 Lupus martial artists, they would be exempted from using star power for 3 years. Honorable Martial Alliance Blood Meridians experts, they were not allowed to retreat. I can go to the battlefield. This poison, its usage is unique. I am proficient in all sorts of poisons. The Cetus martial artists' expressions calmed down. The scene in front of them made them feel at ease. No matter how powerful the opponent's poison was, with such an investigation, there should not be any danger. These are the 30 types of poison that I have meticulously concocted, and I myself am an experienced poison-type Blood Meridians expert. I have rich battle experience and can adapt to different situations, and it was a proper battle, and was more convincing than anything else. Was there a better opportunity than this? For this battle, the higher-ups had given a death order. Old Man Fei and the rest were all from Onyx Soul, and had deep connections with Onyx Soul. Maybe because of their tempers, they were not successful in Onyx Soul, but they still had deep connections. Yeah, you're so confident? Belle was surprised. In the blink of an eye, in every Onyx Soul city, the poison that was gathered was piling up like a mountain. There were so many Blood Meridians experts in Onyx Soul, but not many who researched on poison. But even so, because of the huge base, the quantity was equally astonishing. The Battle of Ursa Major constellation had attracted the attention of the entire Heaven's Road. If they could use such an opportunity to become famous, then their worth would definitely increase. Especially when they heard that the Honorable Martial Alliance confidently said, the Honorable Martial Alliance has a powerful and resourceful group of Blood Meridians experts. Onyx Soul immediately went into an uproar. All of the Honorable Martial Group martial artists' faces became extremely ugly. The middle-aged man thought of something, his face once again revealing an excited smile, and flew back home. Do you think we are all dead? Seems like against high-level martial artists, the poison is not strong enough. Oh, I need to think of a way to increase the purity? The cost is too high. Maybe I can add in some ingredients that erode true power. This is a good idea. All the Blood Meridians experts were equipped with specialized identifying treasures. The most common was the microscopic constellation treasure, and almost everyone had a silver-grade microscopic eye. The microscopic eye was shaped like a magnifying glass with a silver handle. When true power was injected into it, the microscopic eye would shoot out a ray of light aura. Wherever the light aura shone, if there was any abnormality, the mirror would reveal small red words. The Honorable Martial Alliance's discipline was strict. All the Honorable Martial Group martial artists looked at each other, but did not retreat. They rearranged their positions and continued to advance. But even more people's gazes landed on the Blood Meridians experts dressed in the Honorable Martial Group robes. This is a hidden type poison that we have jointly developed. Its effect is not fast or violent, but ordinary poison identifying treasures are unable to identify it. I hope that this battle will be able to prove it. Suddenly, a deafening cheer came out from the mechanical weapons laboratory. Pai-Pa and Belle raised their heads, looked at each other, and ran towards the mechanical weapons laboratory. Who would have thought that Tang Tian and the rest would actually take the initiative to broadcast the entire process of the battle, which immediately attracted a lot of attention. The Blood Meridian's experts who had already sent out the poison were even more focused, personally witnessing the process of the battle. It would be of great help to them in optimizing and improving. He could not wait to test out his new idea, and he definitely had to take the chance before the battle ends to produce a new product. I need to pay for going to the battlefield? Free. I promise to follow orders. As long as you guys let me participate. This thing is called gray spores. They are 100 times smaller than dust and are extremely convenient to use. They can fly with the wind and can be sent into the clouds. One bottle is just enough to cover 100 li. There are 200 bottles here. Please keep them well. As there were too many people, it caused the starry door to be congested. Until Bing smiled and waved his pen to write a slogan, allowing Old Man Fei and the rest to spend money to advertise in the various cities of Onyx Soul, which immediately caused the various cities of Onyx Soul to explode. Because everyone is working so hard. Pai Pa's tone was firm. She did not shift her gaze away from the report in her hands. The amount of materials used by the Mechanical Weapons Laboratory had reached an astonishing number. Pai Pa knew how hard the mechanical engineers worked. Every single one of them spontaneously worked day and night. No fame, no money, no status. That was the current situation of the poison-type Blood Meridian specialists. Every plaza in Onyx Soul City projected a large-scale image, allowing people to clearly see the ongoing Ursa major constellation battlefield. Every plaza was filled with people. Regardless if it was the Blood Meridian specialists or martial artists, they were all extremely curious about the battle. Such a large-scale use of poison had never happened before in the past wars. The Blood Meridian's specialists of Three Spirits City were all mobilized and were sent to the various cities of Onyx Soul. Old Man Fei and the rest were almost going crazy. They had no choice but to use their tongues and tongues to tactfully reject the crazy Blood Meridian specialists. In the end, the Blood Meridian specialists could only leave unwillingly, leaving behind a large amount of poison. The Honorable Martial Alliance did not go back on their words. They truly sent out a large group of Blood Meridian specialists, numbering in the hundreds, and every few meters there would be a Blood Meridian specialist. All of the Blood Meridian specialists carried out a dragnet type of inspection and advanced forward like a white chain. After a moment, the green aura on the faces of the Honorable Martial Group martial artists that were poisoned previously receded, and they returned to normal. But the 3 Blood Meridians specialists who were on the ground were already dead. Only in such a real battlefield could they produce the most authentic proof. Beside every Blood Meridian specialist, there were a few high-level martial artists following closely. They were vigilant to prevent any sudden attacks. You worked your heart out. You forgot to eat and sleep, and used a genius concept to create a world-shocking masterpiece. You believe that it can change the world. You believe that it is priceless. You believe that it can leave its name in the history books. But it quietly lies in a dusty corner, and no one knows about it. You are unable to prove how good it is in battle. You are vexed that you do not know how to prove its greatness. Come and participate in this grand battle. The first poison battle in history. The cruelest battle, the pinnacle battle, is about to begin. In the name of poison and greatness, Ursa Major Constellation respectfully awaits the arrival of your masterpiece. Chapter 460. The 3 armies abandoned all the cities. The 3 armies formed a triangle, resonating with each other, advancing in a rolling manner. Their target was clear. They pounced straight for Tang Tian at Bear Egg. The Mo family was placed in the base, and the first thing they built was not a house, but a Mo family workshop. For the Mo family to become a mechanical aristocratic family. Naturally, they had their own unique mechanical techniques, and the Mo family workshop was one of them. For example, around them, a hero could not fight against numbers. Grandmaster Ah Jin's son, who was equipped with gold star treasures, finally fell to an unknown poison. This poison was called Grandmaster's Kiss and became famous. And its inventor, Hall, truly became famous in one battle and was immediately absorbed by Onyx Soul to become an elder, and the price of his Grandmaster's Kiss went from 10,000 star coins to 5 billion star coins, which no one cared about. In the second week, the number of casualties had already exceeded 12,000 people, and the blood meridian specialists that the Honorable Martial Alliance had just reinforced had their numbers reduced. The opponent's poison was varied and was continuously improving, and the blood meridians specialists of the Honorable Martial Alliance were unable to handle it. But at that time, even the strong Honorable Martial Alliance were unable to invite a blood meridians grandmaster. No one was willing to become the target of public criticism. Ajin's son used his life to help Hall's reputation. In the darkness, there were countless people waiting to become the new Hall. They were like hungry wolves with green eyes. Mo Wei Tian personally supervised. He was half naked, his expression solemn as he looked around, checking on the progress. This is normal in a war, a powerful and singular method. There will definitely be a way to counter it. And you have already completed the mission for weeks. That is enough. Bing's eyes flashed with a cold light. The entire Cetus constellation was once again filled with confidence. All the powerhouses that were paying attention to the war were all thinking about how to deal with the situation. There was nothing in the world that was invincible, although the poison was powerful, but there was definitely a way to counter it. With that, Old Man Fei turned and left. Ursa Major Constellation's poison warfare. No one expected it to be so powerful. Now in Onyx Soul, poison-related blood meridian specialists were extremely popular. Their statuses had increased, and all the big powerhouses were extending their olive branches. Everyone knew that it was impossible for them to fight another poison war like this again, but everyone wanted to keep a few poison bloodline specialists in their hands so that they wouldn't be killed unknowingly. Their strengths were all outstanding, and their experience was plentiful. Upon training, they could immediately feel Bing's tactics and how strong they were. Old Man Fei knew that Bing was right, but his mood was not good and said gloomily, "I will go and research and see if there is any way to break the King Kong wall. Everyone's mission is complete. We've stalled them for 4 whole weeks. These 4 weeks are very precious to us." On the 3rd week, the Honorable Martial Alliance used a large sum of money to invite the famous Blood Meridian's Grandmaster, Ajin's son, who knew that he would attract the passion of the Onyx Soul Blood Meridian specialists, and all sorts of new and strange poisons were sent to Old Man Fei and the rest. In the 4th week, the casualties of the Cetus martial artists decreased sharply, and the 3 armies that were unable to move finally started to advance. "Our poison is useless now." Old Man Fei was slightly depressed. The silent deaths in the video were shocking and frightening. Bing did not stop them. It was a good thing to be ambitious. Wars required open and above-board battles, and also required all sorts of new and novel methods. And a partial advantage was the foundation of an overall advantage. What could be better than stepping on a grandmaster in front of everyone's eyes and becoming famous in one battle? It was an ugly mechanical spirit weapon, but under its metal body that was still burning with residual heat, Mo Wei Tian could feel a strong pulse. After so many generations, the Mo family workshop had finally produced the strongest mechanical spirit weapon of this era. In a short span of 2 weeks, the number of martial artists that died was close to 20,000, causing the majority of the people to feel a chill in their hearts, and the thought of retreating emerged. And when the group of roughly 1,000 people suddenly fell down without a sound, like wheat being cut down, never to rise again, the fear that was triggered immediately caused a wave of star return tide. Gongqing's face had aged a few times. Bing even specially ran over to console them. After 4 weeks, they had finally established an initial level of tacit understanding. Although Tang Chou was still extremely unsatisfied, but they were somewhat eager to try. Is this the pulse of this era? All of these unorthodox martial artists finally deeply felt what was called professionalism. In the past, all of the so-called tactical grandmasters that they had met, the tactics they designed, were simply crude compared to Tang Chou. Ursa Major Constellation's battle had sunk into a stalemate, and more than 80% of the Cetus martial artists had already returned to Cetus Constellation. Although 3 years of star power usage was attractive, but compared to their lives, what was it? Without the help of the poison, the lupus martial artists' bandit-like harassment became much weaker. Although the three armies still had casualties, but the number of casualties had already reached the lowest level since the start of the war. Countless people sighed, countless people were extremely jealous, countless people were eager to try. In the Cetus constellation palace, the atmosphere was heavy. Suddenly, Sule, who had the best six senses, quivered and quietly gestured to everyone. Because it was specially designed for them, they trained extremely quickly, and the few types of tactics that they trained were all like fish in water. What they needed to strengthen now was the tacit understanding between them. Many years later, when countless people talked about that scene, their eyes would still be filled with deep fear. Every battle report in front of them, the scarlet red numbers, were all dripping with blood. It was a ghastly sight. When Mo Wei Tian saw the newest mechanical spirit weapon that had just been formed, with the Mo family workshop symbol, Mo Wei Tian's tears almost flowed out. A small method, but it caused the situation of the battle to suddenly change, and cause a huge change. Everyone was startled, and then their eyes lit up. The deep foundation of the honorable martial alliance was undoubtedly displayed at this time. The ancestors of the Mo family had long understood, in the era of the decline of mechanical weapons, low-end mechanical weapons, mechanical beasts were the most mainstream products. Towards low-end products, cost control was undoubtedly the line of life and death. After many generations of accumulation and research, the Mo family finally formed their own unique production method, and that was the Mo family workshop. Old Man Fei and the rest were all gloomy. In the previous battle, they still held the upper hand, who knew that in the blink of an eye, they would be broken. King Kong Wall was a broken martial technique. It was not profound at all. It formed a layer of compressed true power around the human body. Compared to other true power barriers, it was even more substantial. No matter how outstanding a Blood Meridian's Grandmaster was, if they were to come out at this time, they would become the prey of the hungry wolves. Every tactic was meticulously calculated and designed. Even the flaws and traps inside were meticulously arranged. He touched the black and rough mechanical spirit weapon. The mechanical spirit weapon was still warm from when it was forged. The surface of the spikes had not been polished, it had not been painted, and had not been beautified. But in Mo Wei Tian's eyes, it was like the most perfect work of art, causing him to be deeply infatuated. Although the three armies had not lost contact, but the losses of the three armies were extremely severe. Ursa Major Constellation was fighting like a raging fire. Why was there no movement here? Three Spirits City Bronze Base. Every small group's tactics training manual was completely different, and following the training, they could feel it even more clearly. After 4 days, the 20 martial artists were all in admiration of Tang Chou. In just 3 days, Tang Chou had confirmed all of their arrangements. The 20 of them were split into 5 small groups. This was nothing, but what made them feel inconceivable was, in a short span of 2 days, Tang Chou had given every small group at least 60 pages of tactics training manual. Mo Wei Tian suddenly had a heroic spirit. I will let you all experience the full power of the Mo family workshop, and the King Kong Wall formed by the army. Although it was not enough to defend against attacks, but to prevent poisons, it was extremely effective. The Mo family workshop had a set of unique mechanical manufacturing methods, which allowed them to control their cost to a very low level. It was because of this that in the era where mechanical techniques declined, one after another mechanical aristocratic families withered, while the Mo family was safe and sound. All of these experienced craftsmen were the Mo family's greatest wealth. Three Spirits City. Elder Zhang clenched his teeth. We need to get rid of Three Spirits City first. Without Three Spirits City, Ursa Major Constellation will not have a fulcrum, and we can focus on dealing with Ursa Major Constellation. King Kong Wall, an unorthodox and shallow martial technique. It could form an airtight, true power barrier around the body. It was discovered to be able to effectively block 90% of poisons. This method, after being suggested by an elder, was immediately perfected. Especially armies, under the control of military leaders, could easily form a large-scale King Kong Wall. The 20 of them were so scared that they almost cried. Unless the King Kong wall was trained to an extremely profound level, its defense was actually useless. Although the King Kong wall was sturdy, it lacked elasticity, and to clash head-on with head-on defense, it would cause people to vomit blood. But this layer of King Kong wall, that was as hard as porcelain, was extremely effective against poisons. And for those poison-related blood meridian specialists who had proven themselves in the war, their value had skyrocketed to a shocking level. It had been a long time since the Mo family was so busy. Ever since the Mo family workshop was built, it had never truly been fully operated. But the Mo family did not have any complaints. It was their first battle, and also a battle of life and death. And seeing the scarlet molten iron, seeing the bustling scene, every single Mo family member's face was brimming with fighting spirit. How many generations of Mo families dream? The Mo family workshop was brightly lit. The voices of people were like a cauldron. The rumbling of the mechanisms, sparks flying. The scarlet molten iron meandered. The air was filled with the heat of metal. The muscular craftsmen, all of their true power lit up with light auras. The metal hammers that were even bigger than his body, all of them accurately struck the same position of the components. Some of the craftsmen had serious and focused expressions, holding on to fine knives, cutting the bronze components. The bronze threads were like shavings. Every knife was perfectly straight like a ruler drawing. In the first week, there were already over 4,000 Cetus constellation martial artists dead. The Honorable Martial Alliance was much smaller, especially the high-level martial artists. Only 67 of them died, but the Blood Meridians Specialist Group had lost close to 70%. Cetus Constellation no longer had an optimistic mood. Everyone realized the war had already slipped into a situation that they had no control over. Those who were prepared to reap a fortune had all returned dejectedly. And in that moment, Cetus Constellation actually sank into a slump. Chapter 461. Fight! Fight! What he did not know was that not far away, there was a pair of eyes watching them closely. Tang Cho was engrossed. His expression was focused. Saints were a powerful individual force and had a huge influence on the battle, and in the future, he would have to face them. Only his eyes were filled with madness and determination. His eyes turned cold, and his figure suddenly disappeared. Jing Hao suddenly stood up. His face was first shocked, then his eyes revealed a look of suspicion. But after a few seconds, he suddenly understood. It was Crazy Tang. The platform was smashed into pieces. Star power erupted. Damn it! He casually extended his 5 fingers and suddenly flicked the sword tip. The towering bronze city walls were brightly lit, and through the thick and sturdy walls, he could hear the shouts of training coming out from inside. His expression became cold again. To him, the towering city walls did not pose any difficulty. He was like a wisp of smoke, quietly flying up the city walls. His 5 fingers were like hooks. Without any changes, they were as fast as lightning. An unprecedented, miserable shriek, filled with incomparable pain, but with an indescribable sense of bitterness, solemnity, and determination. Jing Hao quickly retreated. The expanding sword whirlpool was like a tornado, shredding everything around it. The ropes inside the bear egg were instantly shredded. Countless of ropes flew in the air and were shredded even more. His body was still trembling like a sieve. Suddenly, like a wild beast that had smelled its prey, he raised his head and turned his head. Clang! Even the pain from tempering his martial spirit was unable to stop the anxiety in his heart. He could not wait to stop and fight alongside everyone else. The coordination between all of them was obviously planned, and they have some standard. Jing Hao retreated over 30 m. The sword whirlpool storm was still expanding at an astonishing speed. The star power continued to pour in, causing the concentration of Ursa Major Constellation's star power to plummet. The sword whirlpool storm had completely swallowed the bear egg, and everything was being smashed into pieces by the sword whirlpool storm. On a small hill about 50 kilometers away from the bear egg, the 3 saints watched the enormous sword whirlpool storm, their faces ashen. What a good example! Jing Hao retreated again. I can't stay here and train. and watch you guys fight. I can't do it." The crazy and reckless screams were heart-wrenching. Ding! Wen Jiang smiled bitterly, but his steps were still firm. He couldn't refuse any of her requests. He stayed by her side and watched her grow up, become a wife, and have children. He thought that he would be there for her until she passed away. At that time, he would become her gravekeeper. Wen Jiang didn't panic in the slightest. He flicked and blocked with his palm. His moves were clearly extremely simple, but the power behind them was extremely shocking. But after 5 or 6 moves, Wen Jiang sensed that something was wrong. Not far away, Jing Hao, who was meditating to protect Tang Tian, suddenly opened his eyes. He sensed something strange from Tang Tian's screams. What was going on? His opponent was clearly slower by half a beat. He only had time to use the copper rod in his hand to block the front of his body. However, his 5 fingers suddenly turned from hard to soft. As gentle as the wind, they strangely brushed past his opponent's copper rod and stabbed straight into his opponent's chest. "Is this fellow still human?" Fils Saint Do Yong stammered, his face pale. He felt as if he was struggling in the ocean. One moment he was in the water, the next moment he was floating on the surface. The constant feeling of suffocation and muddle-headedness was like instinct. Jing Hao was shocked into a daze. The tempered martial spirit was like a tentacle wrapping around the sword aura. It was as if his hand was holding onto the sword's edge. The shocking pain was like a tide, causing him to almost faint. That pain did not come from anywhere. Instead, it went straight into his heart. It was a pain that directly affected the martial spirit. Every detail of the pain was so clear. His consciousness was in a blur. He was swallowed by the torrential pain. His body trembled continuously. His face was not as ferocious as before, and his tightly shut eyes seemed to have relaxed. Longsho Jing looked at the enormous sword whirlpool in the distance. He was dumbstruck. Beside him, every martial artist was trembling. Their faces were filled with deep respect. "I beg you, you must kill her." In the shabby little house, he felt a few faintly discernible auras. Fight! He was still in a daze. The direction he was facing was the small hill where the 3 saints were hiding. Tang Tian's screams were extremely mournful. He praised in his heart. Seems like 3 Spirit City security was much tighter than he thought. But the 8 people surrounding him did not move him. The reason why he chose to sneak in was to save himself some trouble. Since he could not sneak in, then he would just barge in. There was no difference. Then Sai lay. Inside the chaos, there was a faint voice. "It's so painful. I really want everyone to try it." He quietly floated down from the city wall. His body seemed to be weightless. He gently landed on the ground. Not even a speck of dust was raised. Bai Cici's beautiful face lost color. She turned and asked to Yuming, "Brother, the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique, does it have such power?" "I know, at this time, I should wait for the tempering to be completed. I know, at this time, there's no room for error. That is more rational, that is more reasonable." The citizens of the new Bear Head City were alarmed by the strange sound. They all came out. Seeing the gigantic figure in front of him, even the strong Jing Hao could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. A rapier had unknowingly pierced towards him. The rapier martial artist at the side mustered his true power and anxiously supported him. Tang Tian's senses of the outside world was already completely cut off. The whirlpool sword storm was extremely dense, and he could not see anything. Only the light aura of the desolate bare bone above his head was like the sunlight that pierced through the clouds, shining down, causing him to feel a trace of warmth. Anyways, I am crazy. All of you can mock me if you want. But when danger is approaching, to see all of you blocking in front of me, I can't do it." A piece of white paper was placed in front of him. On it was a title, "Key Tactics to Restrain a Saint Rank." The whirlpool sword's rotation speed continued to increase. The astonishing number of sword auras continuously swept past Tang Tian's martial spirit. Every sword aura would cause Tang Tian's martial spirit to tremble. The whirlpool sword rumbled. "I have not forgotten her. His martial spirit was completely enveloped by sparks. That's good. When the whirlpool sword's speed continued to increase, dazzling sparks exploded around his martial spirit like fireworks. His body bent over, trembling violently like a sieve. Very stupid, right? A look of fear flashed past He Yuming's eyes. He only felt that his mouth was dry. I have never heard of this before. Inconceivable, truly inconceivable. How is this possible? This person inside, isn't he going to be minced into meat paste? In the next second, he appeared in front of one of the martial artists. Out of the 8 of them, he was the strongest and was just a step away from being a saint. But the step away from being bestowed as a saint was like the difference between heaven and earth. The bear egg size was astonishing, and the whirlpool sword storm size had already swallowed the bear egg. Tang Tian could feel everything that was happening outside. Battle. The delicate voice was filled with sorrow and fear. He could do anything for her. Bing, who had just brought back a batch of poison from 3 Spirit City, was stunned by the scene in front of him. An immense power suddenly exploded out like a raging wave. The sword tip crumbled inch by inch, and the martial artist thrusting the sword flew out as though he was struck by a heavy blow. For hundreds of thousands of people to stop training, there could only be one possibility. Something had happened. Tang Tian's heart was burning with anxiety, but the whirlpool sword storm did not show any signs of stopping. Tang Tian. When Jiang was surprised, the speed of the sword was not bad, but a pity, it was fast and powerless. Very quickly, he sensed that the whirlpool sword storm was changing. It was accelerating. But a pity. Maybe I will die this time. I heard that 3 Spirit City is very strong. Inside the bear egg, a super whirlpool sword storm was quickly forming. Sparks flashed. The desolate bear bone flew above Tang Tian's head, the star power suddenly becoming extremely dense. The martial artists in Heaven's Road who were observing the sky were surprised to realize that the handle of the Big Dipper in the blue dome of heaven had quietly shifted. His figure was hidden in the darkness. His chi was not revealed at all, not even the vibrations in the air. He moved along the shadows. It was light and powerless, but his speed was extremely fast. He could see everything that was happening below. His eyes were extremely sharp. His heart was already as hard as stone, but thinking about the scene before him, his heart was still in pain. He did not see Sai Lei, but in that moment of delay, the other martial artists took the chance to move forward. They were truly alert. Killing one person or killing a city of people, in his eyes, there was no difference. Bear egg. Even the viciousness was so similar. It was a simple and clean move, but it was difficult to be so fast, and to be able to change it as one wished. Even the strong gold rank martial artist would be in danger after one move. He had just landed and realized that he was surrounded. His thoughts paused for a few seconds before he slowly adapted. He could only adapt. The pain of entering the martial spirit was unable to divert his attention to ease it. The past was dug out. The little girl who was chased out had turned into a mechanical grandmaster engineer. That old man actually wanted to use Qianqian's life to exchange for Sai Lei. That was something he could not sit and watch. He knew that he had no chance to get close to the old man, although he was already a saint, but the Yifan family's foundation was extremely deep. Pa! Suddenly a spark lit up. Tang Tian's martial spirit trembled intensely. The extreme pain in that moment caused Tang Tian's mind to go blank. It must be hidden in a deeper place. Ah! Bang! Tang Tian's eyelashes trembled. After a while, he opened his eyes in a daze. In just a few moves, Wen Jiang felt as though he had fallen into a spider web. His techniques were becoming more and more difficult to execute, as though there was a formless restriction around him. His gaze was cold. To him, there was only one person in the world who could not die, and that was Qianqian. He recalled the events of the past. The woman who looked somewhat similar to Chu Shi, the woman he loved deeply. Before she died, she entrusted the baby girl in her swaddling clothes to him, forcing him to swear an oath to protect the baby girl for a lifetime. When everyone was fighting, how could I just watch from the side? After 4 consecutive days, the lupus martial artist did not return. Tang Tian understood that the situation was extremely dangerous. His restless heart calmed down. The sword aura wrapped around his pupils, flashed a look of determination. Chapter 462. This time, Tang Xiao's character had become even more stubborn and resolute. Compared to before, he was even more outstanding. Tang Qiu was right. Everyone's path was different. Saints were being deconstructed and analyzed in his eyes. In every confrontation on the battlefield, every detail was dismembered into data in his mind. He was dumbstruck. He was very familiar with the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique. As a swordsman, he had a considerable understanding of all kinds of sword techniques. The whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique was hailed as the cruelest spirit tempering technique. How could he not know? Not only did he know about it, but he had also specially studied it for a period of time. He, who was determined to create his own martial path, was filled with interest towards any extreme techniques and sword arts. Run, Yu Ming said straightforwardly. This was the true power of heaven and earth. The three of them suddenly split up and flew in three different directions. Even if it was a gold-ranked martial artist, under this song, if it was light, their blood vessels would expand, their heart would run wild, and if it was heavy, they would explode and die. Why don't you try it first? Yu Ming's eyes were filled with encouragement. Those gaudy and shocking attacks were like clothes being peeled off layer by layer, becoming the most primitive state in his eyes. Fate was truly unpredictable. A trace of seriousness flashed past Jing Hao's eyes. He raised his sword and moved like the wind, following closely behind the moving sword tempest cyclone. Is it coming for us? Do Yong asked in a daze. This order made them feel very strange, but they still obediently watched from the side. Magic Flute laughed helplessly and floated away. Magic Flute gently advised, "Your killing intent is too strong." This guy, what is he trying to do? Three Spirits City. Will Oldie die? Bai Cece was worried. Bai Cece gritted her teeth, and the sound of the zither changed. The calming song of peace and peace instantly became beautiful and seductive, making people's blood boil. The heavenly maiden roar, which was created with reference to the heavenly demon chant, was the most bewitching, creating many illusions. THTH, is this really the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique? You want to save him? Do Yong asked. His body trembled as he took a small step forward. The figure in the center of the storm staggered. Those blurry memories floated up in his mind. Emotions and sighs flowed out from the accumulated years. These words struck a chord in the hearts of the other two. Clang, clang, clang. Bai Cece looked at the surging whirlpool sword storm in shock. After a long while, she spat out, "What kind of monster is he? Today, I stand alone in the wind and play the 7-layer kill again." There were very few saints who lived alone. Most of them had a family behind them. Even if they did not have a family, they still had a disciple to inherit their legacy. The three of them could already feel the storm whirlpool formed by the countless sword gleams behind them. The ripples created by the frenzied slicing of the air, that power, even saint-level martial saints felt a chill down their spines. Run! Do Yong simply turned around and ran. As the wind blew, both of them felt a chill. The sound of the guqin seemed to have a soothing power, and the whole world seemed to calm down. This was the NC song. This was Bai Cece's most famous song. It was a combination of Sanskrit singing and soul calming. It was the best at calming people's hearts. The three of them could clearly feel the whirlpool sword storm behind them stopping. Let's see what you can do now. The three of them heaved a sigh of relief at the same time, and the whirlpool sword storm only paused for a second, before chasing after Yu Ming without hesitation. Bai Cece had a look of hesitation. Jing Hao's heart was in a perilous state. Bai Cece immediately came to her senses and immediately took out her white jade guqin. Without caring about her image, she hugged it with one hand, and her right hand's 5 fingers slid across the strings. "Is it over?" Magic Flute asked. "It's possible," Bai Cece said. "If Tang Tian did not die under such a strong whirlpool sword storm, then his martial spirit will definitely be tempered to a terrifying level. It is only a matter of time before he steps into the saint level, and it will be very soon. And once he steps into the saint level, his martial spirit that is far stronger than others will make him even more terrifying. Bai Cece shook her head. No, I am thinking of where to burn incense for him. The whirlpool sword storm swayed, as though it was drunk, and slowly moved towards a direction. If Tang Tian did not die, then Sita's constellation would definitely lose. Although they were saints, but that did not mean they did not need to think about the future. To obtain victory and forgive the other party's actions, such a king style only existed in books, and even more overlords liked to settle scores after the fall. In the past, there were 3 saints that caused many casualties to Lei Yang's army, and after the defeat, the 3 saints wanted to escape, but were directly surrounded and killed by Lei Yang's army. Jing Hao was dumbstruck. This thing can move. A general success is built on the bones of tens of thousands. If I want to become a famous general, how can I not kill people? Tang Cho said without raising his head. He was collecting the papers on the table. Not only do I want to kill people, I want to kill a lot of people. Damn it. The whirlpool sword storm increased its speed again. A faint voice, like a whisper in the wind. Do Yong looked at the desolate wilderness and suddenly said, I have a bad premonition. Your Majesty's decision this time might be wrong. Do Yong muttered to himself, I have never seen such a weird person before. I am thinking, if Tang Tian did not die this time, would he become like Lion King Lei Yong? The pressure on the 3 of them increased. But Bai Cece's words caused him to become silent. Just like that time, singing to one's heart's content, a song of flowing time. The 3 saints on the hillside were dumbstruck. The wind caressed his face, causing his hair and clothes to flutter. He flew up to the tallest tower of the base, and could see the entire base. He caressed the shiny copper flute in his hands. His warm eyes were deep and tranquil. The whirlpool sword storm was extremely huge, rumbling and rumbling as it approached. Its power was extremely terrifying. Even though the 3 of them had stepped into the saint ranks, but facing such a terrifying power, they still felt their hearts palpitating. The whirlpool sword storm that was like rain shuddered, like a tall pile of building blocks that suddenly receive an impact with a tremble. It looked as though it could collapse at any time. Jing Hao, who was standing nearby, could see it clearly. Countless of sword auras flowed down like an avalanche, bringing forth a scalp-numbing sword hiss. Fight! Let's run, Bai Cece said straightforwardly. The 2 of them became silent again. The 3 of them sprinted. Their speed was extremely fast, but the whirlpool sword storm that seemed to be drunk behind them also increased its speed. The rumbling sound behind them did not get further away, but instead got closer. Don't tell me you have enmity with the saints? Magic Flute chuckled. His smile was like a spring breeze. Do Yong looked at Bai Cece, somewhat surprised. Bai Cece had a cold personality. It was the first time Do Yong had heard her speak so much in one breath. Seeing He Yuming leading the whirlpool sword storm away, disappearing into the horizon, Do Yong and Bai Cece, who had flown far away, returned the way they came, both of them rejoicing. Bai Cece remained silent. Tang Cho had just said that, from the other side of the base, came the sounds of intense fighting. But, please don't let anything happen to you. I never thought that after dying for so many years, I would actually have the chance to become even stronger. Young Master was like a painting standing in the wind, his white robes fluttering. Damn it, the whirlpool sword storm is chasing even faster. He Yuming's face turned white, his scalp went numb. He could no longer care about his suave image, activating all the true power in his body. He spread his legs and sprinted with all his might. After a few minutes, Jing Hao regained his senses from the shock. All right, as long as it was something related to Tang Tian, if it did not change beyond recognition, if it did not become strange and perverted, then that would be truly strange. The value of this fellow's existence was most probably to make the world abnormal. Rumble, rumble. Whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique. I have never heard of it being able to move. This thing has always been used to temper the martial spirit, and not to run around after drinking. The battle at the corner had alarmed everyone. Everyone was stunned by Wen Zhong's strength. 20 high-leveled martial artists surrounded and killed Wen Jiang, but Wen Jiang still looked to be at ease. His bewitching gaze was frantically writing. Piece after piece of paper filled with pictures and words were continuously being completed by Tang Chou. Although I do not wish to trouble you, but this time we need time, Tang Chou said coldly. You better do it well, and properly shock the small fry. After a moment, he raised his head and looked straight at by CC. What do we do? 20 people actually could not do anything to Wen Jiang. Many of the mechanical martial artists who were training were prepared to provide support, but very quickly, everyone received orders from above, not to make a move. Do Yong looked at the two of them. If we do this, it will be a little embarrassing. At least the three of us are saints. Bai Cc's beautiful eyes also looked at Do Yong. The wind seemed to be getting colder. Magic Flute silently appeared behind Tang Chou, not disturbing him. Ah Chou truly foresees things like a god. Magic Flute exclaimed. Tang Chou's position was extremely good. He could see every detail of the battlefield. His eyes lit up with a bewitching light aura. He was completely focused. The brush in his hand was writing at an astonishing speed. Yes, it's over. Tang Chou stretched his back, his bewitching gaze regaining its coldness. This time, we have obtained sufficient data. I need to study it properly. What do we do? Do Yong asked straightforwardly. This monster is definitely coming for us. Split up and run. He Yuming shouted. Seems like it. He Yuming's expression was sluggish. The white paper in front of him was filled with all sorts of pictures. Every corner was filled with words. Those seemingly ordinary martial techniques, in Wen Jiang's hands, were shockingly powerful. CC, use your zither. He Yuming shouted. Tang Chou suddenly stopped, threw away the brush in his hand, and asked without turning his head, Why are you here? I will burn incense for him. Do Yong swore. With a sigh, young master restrained himself. His eyebrows drooped and his eyes closed, the copper flute placed horizontally on his lips. The two of them were speechless. I am a spirit general destined to become a famous general. Saints are my opponents. Tang Chou then reminded, You have to be careful. We have caused the Honorable Martial Alliance to be in such a difficult situation. They will definitely think of ways to deal with us. Such a good opportunity, they will not miss it. Even if it was a berserk 9th level star spirit beast, after a song, it would fall asleep peacefully. Chapter 463. What spirit domain is this? So soft, I want to sleep. The opponent is a saint. Blind-cord old man Zhongming, he did not place him in his eyes. This kind of martial artist who was at the bottom of the Heaven Road list naturally did not attract his attention. Adding that he was old, he did not have much potential to grow and was barely a guard. Zhang Ming's expression was calm. The martial artists beside him were all elites of the family. The attack on Sita's constellation was pushed by his uncle, but no one expected that it would be stuck in a deadlock. They wanted to force him back. When the flute sound came out, Zhang Ming, he was still indifferent, until he suddenly realized the dusky sky behind young Master Magic Flute had actually turned blue, and he quivered. Dual Reverse Wheel was a pure offensive spirit domain and did not have any defensive capabilities. Suddenly, a flute sound came out, causing him to stop in his tracks. He raised his head. At the top of the tower, a white-robed figure entered his vision. Two martial artists screamed in pain and were directly flung out. Gentlemen, please listen to the 7th kill, Heart Without Worries. He was like a celestial being from a painting. And Three Spirits City's advertisement in Onyx Soul had also spread to the Honorable Martial Alliance, and everyone thought that they had to first pull out this nail. To force Ursa, a major constellation, to compete with them in terms of strength, they had to cut off all of their evil methods. They originally did not care about Wen Jiang and thought that he was just a nameless person, but they did not expect that an elder would recognize Wen Jiang's identity. Wen Jiang was a saint, and Zhang Ming, his own strength, was also close to a saint. Zhang Ming, he did not believe that the small three-spirit city could defend against a saint and a half-step saint at the same time. Furthermore, he had 4 gold-ranked martial artists by his side, and all of them were the essence of the Zhang family. Ever since Tang Tian appeared out of nowhere and obtained the title of Honorable Martial Alliance Whetstone. The geniuses of the Honorable Martial Alliance gradually faded out of everyone's sight. These geniuses who were originally complacent were greatly shaken and all returned to their homes to train. When Zhang's eyes released a cold glint, he knew he had to rush in front of the opponent, and only in close combat could he unleash the power of his spirit domain. The saint who was once famous, but suddenly disappeared, immediately made the Honorable Martial Alliance excited. In a short period of time, he unleashed 4 completely opposite martial techniques, and the 4 completely opposite auras were forcefully stacked together. Wen Jiang could clearly feel the pervasive flute sound, frantically corroding his spirit domain. Upon losing the protection of the spirit domain, he could only wait helplessly. These proud sons and daughters of the heavens were all stifled in their hearts. Since when had their limelight been stolen by a poor boy from the countryside? But Tang Tian's battle achievements were real. He had forcefully seized Ursa Major Constellation, and the rumors of Tang Tian defeating saints had been spreading. But Zhang and the others had their own information channels and knew that the news was true. Zhang Ming, he felt that the strategy to attack Cetus Constellation was feasible. He had also asked Seventh Brother about it, and Seventh Brother felt that it was a good plan and the chances of success were high, and it would be of great help to the later battles. To they to the chords, Ming of the dual reverse. Once the Honorable Martial Alliance became serious, their terrifying information-gathering capabilities would immediately be displayed. The grievances between Sai Lei and the Yi Fan family surfaced, and they even knew that the Yi Fan family patriarch had requested Sai Lei's father to apologize to Sai Lei, including Chu Shi's rage at home, and Wen Zhang's actions after that were all seen by them. The flute sound was melodious, and young Master Magic Flute's face was filled with joy and satisfaction. He had forgotten about the past and only felt an indescribable satisfaction, an indescribable happiness. He sat on the grass, and the soft grass made him feel even more comfortable. It was a pity that Tang Tian was not around. If not, he could spar with Tang Tian, and that would not be a wasted trip. I also have my own obsession. Bang! But Zhang Ming, he thought that it was just a small trick. War had always been a competition of true strength. And following the spread of the King Kong Wall, they finally struggled out of the quagmire. Zhang Ming, his heart was filled with fighting intent. With his current strength against a weaker saint, he still had a chance of winning. And according to what he knew, the saint that Tang Tian defeated was also a saint that did not have any improvements after being bestowed as a saint. He was curious about young Master Magic Flute, the once extremely famous music grandmaster. His entire life could be said to be a legend. No one knew exactly how strong he was. Between many martial artists, they were mutually contradictory, mutually conflicting, and were unable to be used together. But his spirit domain was able to perfectly switch between them. Lone Wolf, went Yi Jiang. I got hit. But so what if he is a saint? He vaguely remembered that he had something to do, but no matter how he thought, he could not remember. Very quickly, the vague impression disappeared, and his face had a satisfied smile, and he just wanted to sleep like that. He was extremely confident in the upcoming battle. The dual reverse wheels only had one use, but its might was astonishing. It went against the basic common sense of martial techniques, and was the complete opposite of martial techniques. The trouble it brought to the enemy was simply a disaster, especially for close quarters combat. It was extremely powerful. But a pity, it was just an incomplete spirit general. The sound of the flute was pervasive, causing Zhang Ming his face to suddenly reveal a blank look. But after a moment, he quivered, and after a while, he became bewildered again, and this repeated over and over again. It was extremely strange. Although the opponent was not as strong as him, but the two of them definitely gave it their all and did not hold back at all. The ancient trees reached the sky, the lush green grass, the warm sunlight, the azure blue sky with floating white clouds, the colorful flowers blooming, the sparkling and translucent lake in the distance, and the beautiful sound of the flute lingering in his ears. The sound of the flute was indescribably beautiful, causing Zhang Ming to be dazed for a moment. All the worries in his heart vanished like smoke. He faced the empty space in front of him and struck out with lightning speed. 1 tune, 7 deaths. He had long completed the first 6 tunes, only the 7th tune. He was not satisfied for the 7th tune. He had racked his brains for the 7th tune and almost went berserk until he died. He finally perfected the true 7th tune. Who knew? The battle would still end up in a stalemate that the Zhang family did not want to see. Ursa Major Constellation used a poison battle to tell Heaven's Road how to use poison on the battlefield. I never thought that I would have the chance to be able to blow it. It is good. The light around him rapidly changed. Zhang Ming, his appreciative gaze immediately became cold. He completely disregarded the surrounding martial artists, soared into the sky, and shot towards the magic flute at the tip of the pagoda. Wen Jiang rushed out of the cave with his face covered in dirt and heaved a sigh of relief. Zhang Ming, he looked as though he was taking a stroll in the park. He was extremely confident and at ease. The intense explosion caused him to be unable to stand steadily, but the illusion in front of him had blasted out a gray hole. But compared to the dazzling Tang Tian, they were still dim. A cold intent surfaced in his heart. If not for the star treasure protecting him, he would most likely be dead. He grabbed onto the puppy ornament tightly. The ordinary-looking puppy was actually an item of great origin, Canis Minor Constellation's gold star treasure, Rui Dog. As one of the 10 equatorial palace halls, how could Canis Minor Constellation's gold star treasure be ordinary? The name, Rui Dog, sounded extremely beautiful, but in truth, there was an ancient King hound's martial spirit sealed inside. With the nourishment of the star power every day, it was even more ferocious and powerful than before. Zhang Ming, he used his blood essence to raise it and was connected to his heart. An illusion-type spirit domain required time to form, and he could not give the opponent any time. Wen Jiang raised his head, his gaze like a sword pointed straight at Magic Flute, who was at the top of the pagoda. Wen Jiang's eyes flashed with a trace of seriousness, seeking death. Zhang Ming, his entire body trembled, his face revealing a look of pain, but he immediately struggled out of the illusion. Zhang Ming, he squinted his eyes. The Honorable Martial Alliance's intelligence on Three Spirit City was very thorough. Three Spirit City had very few strong martial artists, but they had 2 sound-type martial artists, Blind Cord Old Man and Young Master Magic Flute. Seeing that Wen Jiang had infiltrated Three Spirits City as expected, the Honorable Martial Alliance immediately took action. Zhang Ming, he did not make a move. In his eyes, these small fries were not worth his time. The reason why I am not willing to dissipate is because I want to play it. That is, Young Master Magic Flute. The hole was quickly shrinking when Jiang did not care about anything else and rushed towards the hole. The Honorable Martial Alliance's research on star treasures was unparalleled, but using blood essence to raise star treasures was an extremely unorthodox method. But such an extremely dangerous method had an obvious effect. When Wen Jiang heard the sound of the flute, he was like a cat that sensed danger. All the hairs on his body stood. He was a saint, and his intuition was many times sharper than Zhang Ming he. Damn it! The beautiful tune rippled out from his copper flute, and threads of light aura, like smoke, slowly flew out from the copper flute. All these colorful lights floated in the air, like seeds sprouting and growing. The green grew into trees, the red grew into flowers, the blue blossomed into the sky, and the gold grew into the sun. Magic Flute continued to play with his eyes closed. The threads of light aura floated towards him. Their families were illustrious. They had sufficient resources, and they themselves were talented. And now that they were willing to work hard, their strength would soar by leaps and bounds. Zhang Ming, he secretly shook his head. Tang Tian was truly a waste of resources. To him, a spirit general like Young Master Magic Flute was used to fight against enemies, and was not strong. Using him to charge and break through enemy lines would not be of much use. For a spirit general like Young Master Magic Flute, the most suitable person should be a teacher. With so many rare ancient music scores, With a unique understanding of music, it was the light and heat that this crippled spirit general could unleash. He was about to take action and get rid of the few cannon fodder, when his face suddenly changed. "Saint! Zhang Ming," he exclaimed in his heart, and then a faint regret surfaced in his heart. Such a pity. It was not his own spirit general. A few martial artists fiercely pounced over. One Zhang's surroundings lit up with a black light aura. That was his spirit domain, dual inverse wheel. In this region, he could attack as he wished, and when he switched between martial techniques, there would not be any hindrance. One Jiang whistled. His four limbs in the air moved at the same time, 16 different colored light auras, accurately landing on the blade and sword. One blade and one sword, lit up with dazzling light auras, appearing at the cave entrance at the same time. Suddenly, a small dog accessory on Zhang Ming, his waist suddenly lit up with a dazzling light aura, and a smear of gold light aura drilled into Zhang Ming's body. Before he could retreat, his surroundings changed. The lively scene in front of him was serene, without any killing intent, but it caused his scalp to go numb. Chapter 464. Inside the bronze base, how many secrets were hidden? Saint, young master magic flute, actually killed a saint. Of course, this had nothing to do with magic flute. What made him annoyed was, every day at the entrance of the base, there would be a group of beautiful ladies shouting towards the base. The current Three Spirits city wanted to develop quietly was no longer possible. Magic Flute's face twitched. "Young Master Magic Flute, please accept me as your disciple." The stronger a person was, the softer his heart was. As expected, the one he could not stand the most was that fool. The whirlpool sword storm behind him released a terrifying whistling sound that caused one's scalp to go numb. Everywhere it passed, sand and rocks flew. Everything was crushed into pieces. He Ming saw with his own eyes a 300 m tall, small mountain peak. With a bang, it was directly smashed into pieces. Rocks flew behind him like a torrential rain, hitting his back in pain. The speed of the whirlpool sword storm did not decrease at all. At this time, everyone recovered from the shock and looked at Magic Flute with respect. Although everyone did not recognize Wen Jiang, but Wen Jiang's spirit domain was real. Although Zhang Ming, he was not weak, but he was not a saint, did not have a spirit domain. His willpower was not strong enough. Carefree heart. This effect on him was not as strong as Wen Jiang's, and he had the Equatorial Palace Hall gold treasure, Rui Dog. The melodious sound of the flute contained killing intent that was hard to detect. Suddenly, He Ming's mind moved. There were many people in front. His eyes lit up, his face revealing a look of ecstasy. Thinking about the quagmire of war a few weeks ago, he still had some lingering fear. The kind of battle he definitely did not want to encounter it again. Even thinking about it now, he still felt sullen. The wind brushed past his face, blowing his sleeves. A crystal-clear teardrop slid down from the corner of his eye, flying into the wind. The invaders have been destroyed. So unreasonable. Luckily, Crazy Tang is not here. Who can save me? Fu Yan's expression congealed. He seemed to have heard some weird sounds. Is it the sound of cavalry charging? No, it doesn't seem like it. Suddenly, Fu Yan shouted, "Stop!" As time passed, inside the base, there were no sounds of fighting, and one Jiang, Zhang Ming, he and the rest did not come out. All the scouts were dumbfounded. A terrifying guess appeared in their minds at the same time. Everyone suddenly realized that the history books mentioned Magic Flute's few words. After thinking about it carefully, it made people faintly feel the magnificence of his life. The Rui Dog shone brightly, but its silver claws held onto it tightly. No matter how it struggled, it wouldn't let go. Heartless Worry was a killer move created specifically for sage experts. It used the strongest point of a sage expert. The willpower of a saint-level martial artist was much stronger than that of an ordinary martial artist. Their self-control had also reached an astonishing level. Then what was that sound? No. Suddenly, a silver claw flew over and grabbed onto the Rui Dog in Zhang Ming's hands, and with a ferocious tug, the Rui Dog was pulled out from Zhang Ming's hands. The fight in the base had just begun, but it had already alerted the scouts around the base. Magic Flute's heart without worries caused the entire city to be intoxicated, but when it landed in the ears of the strong scouts, it was like a sudden clap of thunder. How could a saint be in such a sorry state? I'm still a saint. He Yuming was currently filled with hatred towards himself. Why did I train in sword techniques? Why did I not become a saint with light body techniques? Magic Flute laughed out loud, the haze in his heart dissipating. His gaze landed on Zhang Ming. Zhang Ming, he was still bitterly holding on. He was like a pendulum, alternating between hot and cold. An intoxicating numbness started to spread throughout Wen Zhang's spirit domain. Magic Flute watched quietly, seeing Wen Zhang's life slowly slipping away. His face did not have any joy of victory. His clear and flawless eyes were like the stars in the sky. Previously, although Three Spirits City had already started to show its prowess, but in many people's eyes, it was still a small powerhouse. Until the collaboration between Three Spirits City and Libra Constellation Grandmaster Association finally brought Three Spirits City to the front. And when Three Spirits City and Tang Tian's relationship was exposed, it attracted even more attention. Order the three armies, prepare to increase our speed. Fu Yin said, we need to increase our speed and reach Bear Egg earlier. As long as we occupy Bear Egg and eliminate Tang Tian, we will be able to achieve true victory. But the discussion that Magic Flute had triggered was far from over. Young Master Magic Flute stood at the top of the tower, his white robes fluttering in the wind. His immortal-like demeanor quickly made him the dream lover of countless young ladies. Magic Flute's power was actually so strong. Magic Flute sat quietly with a calm face. Tang Cho walked past him, and coincidentally, a lady outside shouted, young master, I love you." Tang Xiao's request to intimidate the thieves was completed beautifully. In the entire Three Spirit City, there were no more thieves. The martial artists who were originally swaggering about, with fierce faces, were now buying things and gathering information. They all had smiles on their faces and were extremely careful. For a moment, Magic Flute was a little disappointed and frustrated. Those passionate and emotionless people would always have a soft spot in their hearts, hiding a fatal poison. Tang Cho stopped in his tracks, glanced outside the door, retracted his gaze, and muttered to himself, "Such a pity, humans and spirits are different." Finally completing the seventh kill, the first time the seventh kill appeared. Magic Flute's face was extremely calm. Yiming felt that he was going crazy. Why was it him? Why are you staring at me? I'm not the one playing the zither. Don't tell me you don't like to play the zither. Wen Jiang suddenly raised his head and stared at the white robe fluttering at the top of the tower, as though he could ride the wind and return any time. That was Wen Jiang's last thought. His pale face revealed a heartfelt smile, and Magic Flute's identity as a spirit general made him even more legendary. His past was constantly being dug up. Most importantly, they did not have much time left. The longer they dragged on, the smaller their advantage would be. His face was pale. The strange numbness actually came from the depths of his body. Qi Guang, who was at the side, had a face of envy. This guy had so many evil and crooked things. All the scouts were shocked. They all had Magic Flute in their hands to evaluate. Everyone's evaluation was the same. Although Magic Flute's power was unfathomable when he was alive, but as a spirit general, his power was no longer what it was in the past. His power should be around 7,000 in the Heaven Road list. The last bit of reason made Wen Jiang fiercely bite his tongue. The pain and the taste of blood in his mouth made him temporarily awake. The young lady in front of him transformed into a wisp of smoke, and for some reason, his heart ached. Tang Cho swaggered off. Looking at Tang Xiao's back, Magic Flute almost smashed the bronze flute in his hand onto the back of his head. But even so, he could only barely hold on, and the others were all dead. With Wen Jiang and Zhang Minghe's power, they did not doubt that Three Spirits City could be destroyed. But for them to be so quiet, without any movement, it made their hair stand. Heavens, you finally open your eyes. Heavens, you finally can't take it anymore. How is that possible? That was the power of carefree heart. The stronger the opponent, the more powerful it would be. It was an illusion. Duan Mu curiously sized up Rui Dog. The one who used the silver claw was him. Such a high-level thing. Looking at it could increase his knowledge. To die under such an illusion, that's good. Such a powerful spirit domain. He Yuming seemed to have been injected with chicken blood and sprinted towards the direction of the crowd. The seventh slash, carefree heart, was a killing technique specially created to kill saints. The sound of the flute was like a poisonous seed, flying into a person's heart. The deepest yearning and desire in the heart was the most perfect soil, and the poison would spread from his body to the spirit domain. He laughed at himself. He was actually feeling sad for the death of his enemy. But at that moment, everyone's attention was on the battlefield of Ursa Major Constellation. Young Master Magic Flute, I want to marry you. And his carefree heart, after being praised by a few music grandmasters, quickly became a popular song. Others were playing Carefree Heart. The melody was extremely beautiful, causing people to be intoxicated. And all the sound-type martial artists were trying to gain enlightenment from the melody. There were many saint-level sound-type martial artists, but to be able to kill a saint-level sound-type martial artist, they could be counted with one hand. To be able to kill a saint-level sound-type martial artist, in the entire history of music, it was extremely rare, and every song was a legend. To be able to kill a saint-level spirit general. The White Whale Army was advancing quickly. On its two sides, the Black Whale Army and the Blue Whale Army were protecting their flanks. Fu Yin was at the front of the army. He was extremely confident in his own skills. Even if it was a saint level, he was not afraid. A beautiful lady walked out from the void and smiled sweetly at him. The entire army activated the large King Kong wall, firmly protecting the entire army, preventing the poison from invading. The white-robed figure gradually became blurry in his eyes, and the wisp of smoke that dispersed once again transformed into a beautiful young lady. Wen Zhang's heart trembled with joy, and from his body, it spread to every corner of his spirit domain. But Fu Yin did not let his guard down. The three armies advancing were always on guard. The Lupus army that appeared and disappeared like a ghost, and the Plateau army seemed to have disappeared into thin air. Not only did this not cause Fu Yin and the rest to relax, it instead caused the pressure on them to multiply, and the exhaustion of their physical strength unknowingly increased. I have obviously already expelled the thing that was corroding out of the spirit domain. But the three armies suddenly stopped, revealing a look of caution. Losing the protection of their Rui Dog, Zhang Ming, he could not hold on any longer. His body fell down, and he fainted. Seeing that, Magic Flute shook his head. He was born from an aristocratic family, and knew that when the disciples of aristocratic families lacked experience, their willpower would be weaker, and the thirst in their hearts would not be strong enough. That was their common problem. Young Master is famous. When Zhang's heart trembled, the face that he had yearned for day and night was so real and vivid. His arm moved, wanting to reach out and touch the face that had appeared in his dreams countless of times. There were many people paying attention to the battle. Early on, when the Honorable Martial Alliance and Cetus Constellation suffered defeat after defeat in the Poison War, there were smart people who guessed that the Honorable Martial Alliance would definitely make a move on Three Spirit City. And the thirst in their hearts were usually suppressed to an extreme, but when it erupted, the poison would become even more intense. And the poison would spread to the spirit domain of a saint, and that was another crucial point. This was the power of music, the power of the human heart. Chapter 465. Jing Hao's eyes turned red. He immediately appeared beside Tang Tian and hugged Tang Tian. The King Kong wall that enveloped the army immediately became extremely dense. Everyone frantically activated their true power. The King Kong wall released a golden light. Countless golden Sanskrit words flowed on the surface. In a desperate situation, everyone howled like wild beasts, frantically activating their true power. It was their only chance of survival. This fool, Crane, Ling Su, a Maori, Han Bingning, and the rest, Draco Constellation's gold-ranked martial artists, each led a group of lupus bandits, and started to chase all the aristocratic disciples who wanted to gain merits from Ursa Major Constellation towards the Star Door. It is that whirlpool sword. Bing shook his head. You will know when the time comes. Let's save them first. Who knows how many we can save? But the result made Fu Yin feel despair. But what about the others? Fu Yin quivered. His eyes twitched. Saint rank. The opponent's speed was definitely a saint rank. Wait a minute. Fu Yin felt that the person in front of him was familiar. He looked carefully and immediately recognized him. Sword Saint Mr. He? There was no general who liked this sort of existence that broke the balance. Even if they won, it would make his arrangements meaningless. Millions and millions of sword auras, densely packed, formed a gigantic storm. In front of the storm, they were so small, the shadow cast by the storm covered their entire field of vision. An incomparable fear surged up from the depths of their hearts. Their faces instinctively changed, and they instinctively trembled. Almost at the same time, the other two armies' King Kong wall shattered. This is troublesome. Bing slapped his forehead, feeling a headache coming on. Only then did Flute and Adrian see the situation in the valley, and they couldn't help but be shocked. Star Spirit Beasts? Just at that moment, a brand new order came at a blazing speed. Bing was surprised. He had asked Adrian to persuade Flute to surrender, but the two of them looked like something had happened. He could not help but ask, what happened? Crazy Tang did it. Bing's tone was complicated. A clear shattering sound came out, causing Fu Yin to close his eyes in despair. They needed time for the martial artist to grow a step further. They needed time to complete the upgrade of the mechanical spirit weapons. They needed time to groom their own saints. They could already line up half-step saints, but they did not even have a single saint. The heavens have not forsaken me. Bing was the first to recover, and he had already started to think of his next move. Sita's constellation was finished. The three whale armies were destroyed, and Sita's constellation was destined to perish. At this time, they had the absolute advantage. Everyone was stunned by this scene. He had killed many people, but the scene in front of him gave him an unprecedented shock. A martial artist's life was as fragile as an ant. The King Kong wall trembled violently, as if it could collapse at any moment. Because Fu Yin wanted the three armies to be able to coordinate with each other, the distance between them was no more than 300 feet. The three armies adopted a defensive stance at the same time. It was their only choice. Prepare for battle. Adrian's tears streamed down his face as he sobbed. The hunters have fallen, and the king is dead. Adrian brought a skinny young man to Bing's front. His hoarse roar was so weak and powerless in the raging wind, but it brought a glimmer of hope to the despairing people. Just at that moment, the whirlpool sword storm that had become much thinner suddenly exploded. Countless sword auras swept out in all directions. As long as we win, it's good. He laughed at himself. Since he was not Tang Cho, he was not interested in any famous generals. His voice was trembling, and his hands were trembling. When the King Kong wall was trained to an extremely profound level, it would produce gold words. This caused everyone to be filled with courage. Maybe they could come out alive. Fu Yin almost instinctively shouted this sentence, proving that he was a qualified military general. Could it be a group of flying-type star spirit beasts? The sweeping sword radiance was like a comb, combing through every corner of the battlefield. Not a single person was left standing. The young man's whisper was so soft that it could not be heard. Fu Yin felt that his guess was not far from the truth. Suddenly, a figure rushed out from behind the cliff. The cliff in front of them exploded without any warning, and countless of rocks shot towards them like rain. But no one knew how to dodge. They were all dumbstruck. They raised their heads in stupefaction and watched as a gigantic shadow, with a crushing force, pounced towards them. A group of figures quickly approached from afar. It was an unfamiliar army, causing everyone to immediately be on guard. Bing was startled. His expression congealed. He patted Adrian's shoulder and turned to Lu Di. General came at the right time. Let us first save them. Fu Yin reacted. Who could cause a sword saint to be in such a difficult situation? Suddenly, his eyes stared straight. Bing puffed out a smoke ring, the corner of his mouth twitching, but it was good. One person had killed 3 armies, such a magnificent feat. Even Lion King Leong did not do it in the past. After this battle, even the Honorable Martial Alliance, in the short term, would definitely not dare to have any ideas on them. Bai Cece suddenly bent down and vomited. He's alone. Adrian's eyes opened wide, as though he could not believe it. Isn't he tempering his spirit in the whirlpool sword? When the number of people breaking through decreased, Fu Yan's heart continued to sink. A human survival instinct was extremely strong. One after another, light auras lit up on the martial artists in the army. They had broken through it this time. Bang! Fu Yan was the first to feel it. He was a military general, controlling all the auras. The martial artists continued to transmit their true power. The King Kong wall that was initially in danger actually stabilized. Fight! At this time, they were already too late to escape. The power of the whirlpool sword storm was gradually weakening, but the King Kong wall of the 3 armies was also at the end of the line. Although there were people breaking through, but not everyone could break through at the critical moment of life and death. The whirlpool sword storm engulfed them. The revolving sword auras outside struck the King Kong wall like a torrential rain, the concentrated sounds causing everyone to be unable to hear anything. The gigantic, blossoming blood flowers spread out, soaking the entire valley. The 3 armies were destroyed, the star door occupied. They were like turtles in a jar. Fu Yan's eyes turned red. He roared, "Defend!" If it was just destruction, it would be fine, but the scene in front of them was too bloody and cruel. Bing was still all right. He had crawled out from a pile of corpses, and in his era, any trench could be as bloody as this. A lone figure floated above the blood flower. Their attacks entered the whirlpool sword storm, but did not even cause a ripple. The entire place was filled with a scalp-numbing shriek. The densely packed revolving sword auras brought about a gust of air, causing them to be unable to stand steadily. We're finished. But the scene just now had long been transmitted to every corner of Heaven's Road through star treasures. Do-young's face was as white as paper. He forcefully squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying, and said to Bai Cece, "Seems like we do not need to think about how to explain back to Sita's constellation." The sound came from behind the cliff in front of them, getting closer and closer. The momentum was terrifying. Fu Yan was experienced in battles, and upon hearing it, he knew that there were many of them. Dazzling sparks covered every corner of the King Kong wall. It was so glaring that no one could see clearly. Countless of blood flowers blossomed at the same time. Looking down from the sky, it was a gigantic, blossoming blood flower. Oh, those 3 fellows, maybe. To them, the most important thing was time. The disciples were fine in battles, but upon encountering danger, they panicked. The situation had reached such a critical stage, causing everyone to be anxious. This subordinate is misty, leading the hunting net army to surrender. Before they had even finished cleaning up the battlefield, the Lupus army and the Plateau army had already taken down the star door, cutting off the path of retreat for the Cetus Constellation martial artists. In Sky Martial Wolf Academy, the students who had just finished changing started scolding. They did not even have to fight. The bunch of cowards had already surrendered. The young man's body fell down powerlessly. No one knew who started to surrender, but all of them started to surrender. After the battle, Tang Tian reckoned that the infamous name of Human Butcher would be unavoidable. Mr. He was battered and exhausted, his clothes torn and tattered. His entire body was covered in mud. Even his shoes had dropped. Fu Yan could not believe his eyes. Was that the Mr. He that he revered? If he did not know, he would have thought that he was a beggar on the streets. No, the beggars of Cetus Constellation were much cleaner than him. The familiar command caused a martial artist to instinctively unleash their own attacks. The dense blade auras and sword auras behind Fu Yan's back, converging into a current, rushing towards the whirlpool sword storm. Wait a minute, it's Mr. He. Crazy Tang was fine, although he was unconscious, but his chi was stable, the frequency of his breathing, as though he was asleep. Bing glanced at Do Yong and the rest in the distance. This is Misty asked with a trembling voice. The scene in front of him was too tragic. It was his first time witnessing such a tragic battlefield. The sword auras struck the King Kong wall and were all deflected. As more and more sword auras were deflected, the originally balanced whirlpool sword storm started to show signs of slowing down and thinning. The three armies were arranged in a triangular formation, like three chisels, fiercely staring into the whirlpool sword storm. But this fellow, no, it's Mr. He Yuming's face was pale white. He was dazed. Previously, he was just trying to survive, but after personally witnessing the bloody battlefield, he slumped to the ground. Misty's eyes were red and swollen. It was not only him. Adrian's eyes were also red and swollen. Such a fast speed. The war had just started, and the majority of the martial artists in Heaven's Road grew up in a peaceful environment. They were used to the killing between martial artists, but for the scene in front of them, they had never seen it before. Bing's emotions were extremely complicated. There was no deafening whistling sound, no dazzling sparks. It was a quiet and deathly valley. On top of the blood flowers, the young man floated silently. His pupils without focus, his blank face, formed a strong contrast with the massacre beneath his feet. It was filled with a bewitching beauty. He did not even place the three-whale army in his eyes. He had prepared for a long time, and was prepared to reel in the net, but he did not expect that Tang Tian, with his own strength, could slaughter the three-whale army. The trembling of the King Kong wall became more and more intense. The trembling became bigger and bigger, and the true power coming from the surroundings became weaker and weaker. Kill. Chapter 466. Crane placed the flowers on Tang Tian's bed calmly. By flowers? You're thinking too much. Mr. Magic Flute asked me to send them over. These flowers were given by his female fans. He felt that it would be rude to throw them away. Giving them to the patient is a blessing. Tang Tian needed a rest in bed and needed someone to take care of him, so Bing called Peep over. Pai Pa looked gentle and soft, but she was strong on the inside. She would never compromise. With her supervising Tang Tian, everyone was relieved. It was no big deal. Without true power, he could just train again. The students of the Sky Wolf Academy, who were rubbing their palms and preparing to go all out, were dumbfounded. The battle that they expected did not happen. Once they heard that this mechanical army was led by a godly young man, everyone in Fornax took the initiative to join them. They welcomed them with smiles and kowtowed to them. Pai Pa took out an apple from the big basket beside her and started peeling it. In front of her was a pile of apple peels. Among them, there were people from different sections. There were ancient spirit generals, powerful saints, music masters, and young geniuses. This kind of research would definitely be beneficial. Countless flowers poured down from the silver Aquarius vase, burying Tang Tian completely. It was a pity that the saint treasures of Lupus constellation and Cetus constellation were missing. Only the saint treasures of Ursa Major constellation, Draco constellation, and Andromeda constellation were missing. Very quickly, the two of them started discussing on how to reform Fornax constellation. When the people around Tang Tian saw such comments, they would snort in disdain. He could not remember it anymore. It had been a long time. Many past events floated up in his mind. His thoughts drifted away. He thought about his life with his mother when he was young. He thought about his time at Andrew Academy. He thought about the time he spent with Chia. Bit by bit, he could not help but smile. Tang Tian laid on the bed and sighed. If I continue to lie like this, my bones will rust. Cetus constellation was extremely important to Tang Tian. Cetus constellation and Lupus constellation were adjacent to each other. With this, the 5 constellations could be combined into one. No one noticed that a mechanical army had quietly entered the Fornax constellation through Cetus constellation. The hungry wolves of the Sky Martial Wolf Academy swarmed towards the Fornax constellation. Sai Lei and M.O. Lung personally went to Fornax constellation. When the entire Heaven's Road was shocked by Tang Tian's strength, no one would have thought that a Heaven's Road, it was just the beginning. The destruction of Cetus constellation's 3-whale army, the Star Door being snatched away, the three saints taking the initiative to join, countless of Cetus martial artists surrendering. In the blink of an eye, Cetus constellation was in imminent danger. And in Three Spirit City, Zhang Ming, he was captured and lone wolf when Jiang was killed. The only thing that comforted him was his martial soul. In military terms, the purity of his martial soul had already reached an unheard of level. He had already been bettered in for a month. With his own strength, he had gotten rid of 3 armies, but the price he had to pay was extremely heavy. His meridians were broken, and 2/3 of the bones in his body were broken. The surging true power in his body was now completely gone. After recuperating for a month, thanks to his strong physique, his bones were gradually healing. But he had always been working hard to advance, and had never thought of giving up. The advantage of having a pure martial soul was that his intuition was extremely sharp. Before Pai Pa threw the apple out, Tang Tian had already accurately judged where the apple would land. He stretched his neck, opened his mouth wide, and the apple was immediately bitten by him. Tang Tian, before leaving, Crane wrote a like word on the guest book. Very quickly, Cetus constellation was in Tang Tian's hands. Jing Hao had never seen it before. Talking about the research of martial souls, the strongest was of course the Honorable Martial Alliance. But it was a pity that they and the Honorable Martial Alliance were like fire and water, and Jing Hao was more focused on sword techniques and did not have much research on martial souls. So he could not explain why. This was his martial soul. The original flame spirit had disappeared and became what it was now. Tang Tian's martial soul made everyone who saw it click their tongues in wonder. There was nothing to be depressed about. His thinking was simple, since he did not understand. Then he would start researching. Asshole, my bones are itching even more. Although Chia was still far away. Although his own dream had not been completed. Every day, Tang Tian's guest book would be filled with words, and then Pai Pa would very attentively and considerately change a new guest book for him. You guys, Gong Qing's escape to Tang Tian was not a bad thing. The martial artists of Cetus constellation were relatively intact. When Gong Qing was there, the resistance of the martial artists was extremely tenacious. But when the news of Gong Qing's escape spread, their morale plummeted, and the resistance almost disappeared. How long has it been since I basked in the sun like this? So without saying a word, he called Bing, the 3 saints, Magic Flute, Jing Hao, Ling Su, Crane, and the rest over. The feeling of basking in the sun is so good. There was nothing to be depressed about. Everyone immediately became interested. There is no need to mention the few saints at their realm. The spirit domain was the core of their research. Tang Tian's little man was extremely rare and was the best research subject. And Jing Hao, Ling Su, and Crane were not far from the saint level. Their biggest problem now was to awaken the spirit domain. As a patient, you have to have the awareness of a patient. Crane's voice came out. He carried a big bouquet of flowers and walked in. Please do not add to the troubles of others. Even the saints had never seen such a unique martial spirit. Fornax constellation was one of the Southern Sky's 42 constellations. The Southern Sky constellation was the 5th grade constellation. To be able to latch onto young man Tang, what was there to hesitate about? Although many of the saints analyzed that Tang Tian was actually borrowing the power of heaven and earth, but the shocking scene was destined to remain in the hearts of countless people. Starting from scratch, using his own strength, sitting on 5 constellations, Tang Tian had already become the #1 young hero. In the eyes of the entire Heaven's Road, Tang Tian was extremely shrewd, resourceful, and filled with the aura of a tyrant. Hey, little Crane, at this time, you still say such words. Aren't you adding insult to injury? Tang Tian was extremely unhappy. He noticed the flowers in Crane's hands and mocked. Little Crane, you still know how to buy flowers. Are you a man? Ha ha. If he could not find Xie, then he would continue to search. I am a stupid child. I do not know how to be smarter. I only know to move forward. Because with every step forward, he would be one step closer to his dream. Mr. Magic Flute's kind intentions, I have brought it There are many things to do. I will go first. Crazy Tang, take care of your injuries. Crane smiled and left. The development of the situation was unexpected. Everyone's eyes lit up. The only regret was that Cetus Constellation's Gong Qing saw that the situation was not right, and immediately, with the help of the Honorable Martial Alliance, took the Saint Treasure and escaped from Cetus Constellation. Pai Pa was not moved and continued to lower her head and peel the apple. Tang Tian's reputation reached the peak. The illustrious battle achievements. After Lion King Leong, no one could surpass Tang Tian. And Tang Tian himself had killed 3 groups. It was as though a martial artist's individual strength was displayed to the fullest. Tang Tian watched himself being swallowed by the sea of flowers. Tang Tian basked in the sun, his entire body warm, unspeakably comfortable and healed. He half reclined on the wooden chair in a daze. Crunch, crunch. Without even spitting out the core, the apple went into his stomach. Bang! But to Tang Tian, it was not a problem. Just as Crane left, Ling Su walked in, full of remorse. I've been training too hard recently. A young man needs to sweat under the sun. The feeling of sweating is so good. Ling Su waved his arms and wrote a word of praise on the guest book. Sai Lei's face was filled with excitement. No wonder there are no treasures here. The martial spirits bred from the star power are still very low level. But to us, it is a good thing. There is actually such a strange place in the world. We have picked up a treasure. Following that, Orion Constellation completely fell. Orion Constellation's Saint Treasure fell into the hands of the Honorable Martial Alliance. Leo Constellation was surrounded by enemies. Scorpio King floated out of the water. Sima Shao sat on the Scorpio King throne, and the clan union merged with Scorpio Constellation. Without any warning, Serpent Constellation, Aquila Constellation, and Ophiuchus Constellation of the 10 Equatorial Palace Halls merged, forming a brand new Ophiuchus Constellation, proclaiming to revive the glory of the 13th Ecliptic Palace Hall. His entire body could only move his neck. Tang Tian displayed an extremely unscrupulous attitude and braced himself. Everyone, come and trample on me. Could it be that this godlike young man had a hobby of collecting low-level constellations? Everyone in Fornax Constellation was puzzled. What was so special about Fornax Constellation that was worth attacking? There were no treasures in this place, but when they thought about the weaker Lupus Constellation, they finally understood. Inside his body, there was a transparent and lifelike little person that looked exactly the same as him. Finally, after enduring the waves of mockery, Tang Tian's injuries were healed, and he could get up. With me like this, no one knows what to do. Then let's use the stupid method. I will be the guinea pig, everyone will discuss and research, and we will be able to figure out something. Tang Tian, magic flute, with so many companions who could go through life and death with him, who could fight side by side with him, what was there to be dissatisfied with? Although there were all sorts of problems, all sorts of setbacks, but so what? Everyone was trying their best to make him happy, and everyone took the initiative to shoulder all the responsibilities. The concentration of Cetus Constellation's star power suddenly dropped from 31% straight down to 22%. To express his blessings, I have brought them all, Crane said casually, and a silver Aquarius cabinet appeared in his hand. The situation in Heaven's Road was turbulent, causing everyone to feel nervous and uneasy. The martial artists of Fornax Constellation cheered excitedly. They were now part of a big power, and young man Tang was extremely kind. It was because of his help to Lupus Constellation that the martial artists of Lupus Constellation became famous. No matter how bad Fornax Constellation was, they were still stronger than Lupus Constellation. Even if they could not train anymore, there would definitely be other ways. Pai Pa smiled and threw the peeled apple to Tang Tian and said, "Master, please bear with it." Tang Tian's face exposed a smile. Compared to the time when he was still training fundamental martial techniques, his situation was much better. At least, he still had the unparalleled martial spirit. Good place. The concentration of star power is low, and the influence on our smelting and forging is low. There is an abundance of natural earth fire, and the local forging foundation is very good. With some training, they will become good craftsmen. Mo Long was satisfied. The place was very suitable for the Mo family workshop. So annoying, so annoying, so annoying. Tang Tian cried on the bed, extremely irritated. Chapter 467. Tang Tian was so tired that he was gasping for breath. Earlier, he had proudly said that everyone could ravage to their heart's content, and they had indeed ravaged to their heart's content. Among the huge team, there was one special person, and that was Chunzi Lin from the Immortal Martial Academy. This nameless disciple of the Immortal Martial sect was the one with the least reputation in the entire group. But he passed Long Shou Jing and Bing's test and joined the secret group. And Leo Constellation's 4th Army, under Ah Guti's lead, brazenly attacked Canis Minor Constellation, and in a short few days, Canis Minor Constellation was in imminent danger. The Honorable Martial Alliance rushed over to help, but they did not expect that they would be ambushed by the 5th Army and were completely annihilated. There was dead silence. Everyone was digesting the shock in their hearts. Everyone discovered that on each other's faces there was fear, anticipation, confusion, and excitement. All along, people had thought that true power was the fundamental reason for a martial artist's strength, and it was also the foundation of the current martial techniques. Including blood meridians, it did not deviate from this category. The source of blood meridians' power was precisely because it contained all sorts of substances that were extremely rich in true power. Ding Man said, "Let me check." On the 12th day, Canis Minor Constellation fell, and the Canis Minor Constellation Master was captured. Agute, who was known for his bravery, forced the Canis Minor Constellation Master to use the star power to attack the Saint Treasure, causing the star power of the Canis Minor Constellation to become chaotic. Since its inception, Big Dipper had become the highest level of top secret plan in the entire corporation. At this time, Old Man Fei, who was beside Wang Xian, stood up and said solemnly, "We have already checked. Master's body does not have any blood meridians. Even infants do not have a body with 0 true power. Even if you do not train in martial techniques and live naturally, the energy in the air will naturally accumulate in your body. When a parent is pregnant, energy will pass through the parent and accumulate in the baby's body. In comparison, the power system of the other forces was already very stable. It was very difficult to squeeze into the core circle of power. The inner circle of power around Tang Tian had yet to take shape. For those talents, it was undoubtedly very attractive. After the 2 armies retreated, Canis Minor Constellation's star power completely crumbled, and after a day, all of the star doors of Canis Minor Constellation disappeared. "What a monster!" Liang Feng muttered to himself. "We seem to have discovered something extraordinary." In many people's eyes, Tang Tian's weaknesses and shortcomings were very attractive. If he didn't have enough people around him, it meant that there were more seats and more opportunities. Old Man Fei from 3 Spirit City had specially sent out a group of blood meridian specialists led by Wang Xian. Since he did not have true power, then the power of blood meridians would most likely become Tang Tian's main fighting method, and the combination of blood meridians and martial spirit was the domain that Onyx Soul was most proficient in. Furthermore, Old Man Fei felt that the contribution of the blood meridians laboratory was insufficient and would not let go of any opportunity to curry favor with Tang Tian. What a powerful physique! Wang Xian couldn't help but exclaim when he saw Tang Tian sweating profusely. But the chaos outside had nothing to do with Ursa Major Constellation. They were quietly nurturing Big Dipper. The platoon leader of the 6th Army, Duan Qing, who had always kept a low profile, had made a name for himself. The 3 Saint-level experts who had just joined Tang Tian's side knew that this was a great opportunity. If they could help Tang Tian resolve his current predicament, it would be of great help to them in the future. They were very clear Tang Tian's rare and extreme condition to the Saints was undoubtedly the best research subject. Wang Xian's face revealed a strange expression, and Master's physique becoming stronger has nothing to do with blood meridians, because Master's body no longer has any blood meridians. Liang Feng naturally did not want to fall behind. Do Yong, He Yu Ming and by CC had not achieved anything, but he too had not achieved anything. Previously, he was still holding back, but now that there were 3 more saints, the pressure on him increased. He clenched his teeth and invited his best friend, Blade Saint Fengyu. In a short period of time, the number of saints in Ursa Major constellation suddenly increased to 7. In that moment, Heaven's Road was speechless. Monsters. The newly joined Gay, Xen Hen, Ding Man, and Fengyu all had something in common. They were all saints of neutral constellations or small constellations. It was a result that no one had expected. Everyone thought that Tang Tian's martial spirit had been tempered to an extremely pure state, but no one had expected that Tang Tian's body would actually become so tyrannical. This caused everyone to be surprised, and they started to target Tang Tian and conduct a series of strict tests, but the results were still shocking. Number 13 Bronze Mechanical Laboratory produced the most sturdy bronze, using it to create targets that were over 10 centimeters. Only saints could shatter them. Martial techniques were separated by sex, but in terms of core ideology, there was no difference. Everyone was stunned hearing that zero-energy body. No one had ever heard of it before. Beside him, the Blood Meridians specialists all revealed expressions of disbelief. It was not only them. Everyone else's expressions were congealed. Ever since Tang Tian had fully recovered, he had displayed an extremely tyrannical body quality. After a series of battles, Tang Tian was like the sun in the sky. Although compared to others, his territory was still small and had many shortcomings. But even people who looked down on Tang Tian had to admit, in the current Heaven's Road, Tang Tian was still a top figure. With that said, everyone quietened down. It was not strange for Big Dipper to become the highest priority of the Tang Tian group. Tang Tian had personally killed 3 Equatorial Palace Hall's armies. Such astonishing might. Not only did it intimidate Heaven's Road, it also allowed Bing and the rest to see the immense potential in Tang Tian's body. Wang Xian looked at the records in his hands, his heart agreeing with the word monster, but of course he was not stupid enough to agree. Liang Feng was a saint. It could be said that he had to be careful. Furthermore, Tang Tian had not stepped into the saint rank. If he did, what would his power become? Zero-energy body. Ding Man, who was done checking, stood up and said, "His body is extremely weird. Not only does he not have any blood meridians, even the true power that would fuse with his flesh and blood has disappeared. His body is even cleaner than a baby. He is a true zero-energy body." No one had ever thought, if a person's body did not have the existence of energy, what would happen? Only those 2 words were suitable for him. Tang Tian's zero-energy body was undoubtedly a complete toppling of the current martial technique system. This was the first constellation to disappear from Heaven's Road in the past 1,000 years. Suddenly Crane spoke out. "I have heard of it before. There's a very unorthodox method to train the body, and it is similar to the Whirlpool Sword Spirit Tempering technique." He was truly 100% a monster. The Blood Meridian specialists were extremely powerful, although these people were not successful in Onyx Soul. But their own strengths were outstanding, and Old Man Fei had picked out the elites. All of them had some skills. It was possible for one person to make a mistake, but it was impossible for so many people to make a mistake. Tang Tian, who was half dead from exhaustion, was called over to accept Ding Man's comprehensive check. Master's body quality is completely not inferior to any gold meridians. Wang Xian concluded, "This is the most tyrannical body that I have ever tested. Master's full destructive power can shatter the number 13 bronze target, which has a thickness of 12 centimeters. In terms of explosive power, Master's 50-meter sprint can break through the speed of sound. In terms of endurance, Master has already surpassed 90% of the Star Spirit beasts who are famed for their endurance." While checking, Tang Tian immediately fell asleep. The unprecedented Whirlpool Sword Storm had created an unprecedented pure human-shaped martial spirit. Everyone was filled with curiosity. If Tang Tian stepped into the saint level, what would his spirit domain be like? Old Man Fei was not the only one who could adapt to circumstances. How is that possible? Although true power can also temper the body, but that is only at a low level, such a tyrannical body. Other than blood meridians, I cannot think of any other way. The one who spoke was Ding Man. As a medical saint, she had sufficient authority in this domain. The core content of the development of the martial technique system was the use of energy, and the energy-transformed body had a natural advantage in this aspect. Thus, on how to transform the body into energy was the current mainstream thought. Tang Tian, the first zero-energy body in the history of mankind. Jing Hao glanced at Crane in surprise. He did not expect Crane to know such an obscure thing, and nodded his head. There is such a method. It is called tempered sword body, but it is a martial technique of a small sect, and has long been lost. After Orion Constellation's defeat, the Lion King's move was as powerful as thunder. He used his cold and ruthless methods to tell the stars of heaven's road that he, who had created a constellation from blood and fire, was not afraid of any provocation. The constellations that were originally restless from the words of the Honorable Martial Alliance all kept quiet out of fear. Everyone was in an uproar. The people around Tang Tian were all filled with passion towards Big Dipper. The more they checked, the more serious Ding Man's expression became. It was not surprising that Tang Tian had become the hottest leader in Heaven's Road. The entire Heaven's Road was still in turmoil. The 6th Army of Leo Constellation had ambushed the 9th Gold Branch of the Honorable Martial Alliance, causing the 9th Gold Branch to be removed from the list. And after that, they pretended to retreat and set up an ambush, heavily injuring the 7th Gold Branch that came for revenge and left calmly. Although they had personally witnessed the tests, but after hearing Wang Xian's conclusion, everyone could not help but reveal looks of surprise. Although the Sword Tempest Cyclone was very accidental, although it had the help of the Desolate Barebone, but the might that Tang Tian had displayed was of a strategic grade. Even if the power was weakened by a few times, it was still of a strategic grade, and the speed that broke through the speed of sound was seen as one of the symbols of a saint. Ever since Canis Minor Constellation, one of the 10 equatorial palace halls, was erased from Heaven's Road and disappeared. The sky that revolved around Tang Tian was named Big Dipper. Tang Tian was like a lab rat, required to undergo complicated and strange tests. The team of 3 saints instantly swelled to 9 people, and out of the 6 new people, there were 2 saints, Spear Saint Gate Xenhen and Medicine Saint Ding Man. The other 4 were spirit martial artists that specialized in researching martial spirits, an old man that was immersed in theory and research, Mr. Guai, who had strange ideas, and the trump card martial techniques lecturer from Sexton's Constellation. Any powerhouse, towards a strategic grade power, would never be stingy with manpower, resources, and financial resources. Chapter 468. And what made everyone even more suspicious was, how was Tang Tian going to fight? No matter how pure the martial spirit was, without energy, it could not form a spirit domain. So what was the use? Feng Yu's spirit domain was very special, called Boiling Moon. They were all extremely shallow, fundamental martial techniques, but the frequency was so fast that He Yu Ming's eyes could not catch it. The worst thing was, every attack was extremely powerful. He Yu Ming felt as though he was being trampled by a group of wild beasts. Bang! Shattered aura. No true power. No true power. He Yu Ming's face changed. He used a sword to block in front of him, and his fists fiercely clashed with the sword. Bang! Tang Tian instinctively waved his fists, blocking Feng Yu's blade, aura torrent, and muttered something. Suddenly, his gaze froze. Although he already knew that Tang Tian's speed could break through the sound barrier, but to be directly in front of him, that intense pressure caused He Yu Ming to squint his eyes. Although Tang Tian did not have true power and was unable to form a spirit domain, but his extremely pure martial spirit allowed his intuition and judgment to reach an unimaginable level. The surrounding was dead silent. Tang Tian's figure became blurry. The simplest fundamental fist technique was extremely fast, like a torrential storm. It forcefully formed a formless barrier in front of Tang Tian. The blade, aura, torrent clashed with it, splashing loudly, but was unable to move it at all. but he was currently a zero-energy body and did not have any true power in his body. Without true power, how could he use the spiraling energy? If Feng Yu knew what Tang Tian was thinking, he would definitely not know whether to laugh or cry. Regardless of how one looked at it, it was not a good response. In actual combat, the bigger the movement, the bigger the flaws. Tang Tian was currently like that, but all the dazzling shattered auras surrounded him like mist were formed by him shattering the blade auras. Shattered auras were also energy, since he could take revenge and gain benefits. He Yuming wanted to show off his skills. But Tang Tian had already started to put it into practice. When he started to punch, he would bring the spiraling energy, but the effect was not good, because it would cause the frequency of his punches to decrease greatly. He tried all sorts of methods, and very quickly realized, without true power, the spiraling energy could not be formed. Before he finished speaking, the air in front of him suddenly exploded, and a circle of white mist spread out in all directions. No, I want to spin too. The stopwatch in Wang Xian's hand clearly showed the time of the battle, 8 seconds. The flaw that Yu Ming's sword had disappeared. I really want to fight to my heart's content. What's going on? Think about it. If you were to be chased by the terrifying sword tempest cyclone for a few days and nights, and then watch as the sword tempest cyclone killed 3 armies like vegetables, no matter how tenacious a person was, he would definitely have a shadow in his heart. Everyone jumped in fright. These blade radiances were the size of a palm, and there were countless of them, all of them sharp and biting cold. Old Do Yong thought of a possibility, and a sympathetic expression appeared on his face. Maybe the trauma from last time is too deep. Tang Tian immediately felt strenuous. Every blade of light had an intense rotation, causing its power to increase abruptly. Yu Ming felt so uncomfortable that he wanted to vomit blood. He simply swung his arm, and the direction of the sword tip changed again. Tang Tian did not even think about it, whether it was realistic or not, whether it was possible or not. He only had one thought, which was to spin. In a short period of time, both parties were as fast as lightning, continuously changing moves 5 times of the naked eye could not catch. Yu Ming's forehead was covered in perspiration. The sword in his hand was actually unable to stab out. Yu Ming, who flew out, was like a sandbag, drawing a beautiful arc and landed heavily on the ground, unconscious. Yu Ming trained in sword techniques, and his spirit domain was wind listening. Upon activating the spirit domain, he could grasp any change in the airflow within a 500 m radius, and his sword technique was called Wind Listening Sword. From the minute changes in the airflow, he could find the opponent's flaw. Asshole! The first to suffer was Yu Ming. Feng Yu was not surprised. The moon beneath his feet became even brighter. The blade auras became even sharper. They started to spin intensely, surging towards Tang Tian. After being chased for so long, he was in such a sorry state. He had lost all his face. When Yu Ming heard that Tang Tian wanted a sparring partner, without saying a word, he was the first to rush over. Who knew that Tang Tian was like a spring? His posture returned to normal, and as though he had foresight, Yu Ming's sword tip had just stopped, and Tang Tian's body had just completed the change. Tang Tian saw that Feng Yu was ready and shouted, "Begin!" So fast. Although Tang Tian had many weird moves, but Yu Ming still firmly believed that only the saint level was the peak of martial artists. Tang Tian rushed in front of him. Without any fancy moves, he punched out. Yu Ming's wrist had just flicked. His sword had not even pierced out. When Tang Tian's gaze exploded, he had also seen through the landing point of the sword. His footwork quietly changed, his upper body shrinking. In mid-air, Tang Tian suddenly retracted his fist to the side of his chest. His body was like a bow. His gaze sparkled as though it was about to ignite. He welcomed the blade aura torrent without dodging. 8 seconds to defeat a saint level. Such a thing had never been heard of before. It must be Yu Ming himself that had a problem. Breaking the sound barrier, the dazzling blade aura torrent suddenly gushed out from the crescent blade in Feng Yu's hands and pounced towards Tang Tian. Tang Tian was also eager to try. He had been tormented by these fellows recently. All sorts of weird tests made him feel like he was a circus animal. Many of the tests were extremely boring. The most important thing was, through these tests, he became more and more familiar with his new body. Punching and kicking, trampling, his desire to fight also became stronger. A daring thought lit up his heart like lightning. He Yiming only felt as though he was being rammed by a wild beast. He finally knew to be able to shatter a 12 centimeters size 13 bronze target. What kind of concept was that? His body flew out. Bang! Tang Tian's body had become a rarely seen zero-energy body, but his martial spirit was extremely pure. In everyone's eyes, it was inconceivable, extremely contradictory. A figure carrying a blade stepped into the field. Let me. Tang Tian's transformation made He Yiming feel unspeakably uncomfortable. The sword in his hand actually could not pierce out. When this thought popped out, all the other thoughts in Tang Tian's mind were swept away. Everyone's expression was dumbstruck. They opened their mouths wide, staring blankly at Tang Tian. The field was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. Tang Tian was also shocked, but following that, his reaction made everyone surprised. Tang Tian fiercely stomped on the ground and rushed forward at an even faster speed. Bang! The sound barrier exploded again. Tang Tian left after images and suddenly appeared in front of He Yiming. Other than venting his anger, Sword Saint, he still had his own plans. With so many saints, how to stand out was a problem that he had to ponder over. The simplest method was to let young man Tang see his own strength. Feng Yu did not panic. The curved blade in his hand swung slightly. The air bubbles around him were immediately attracted to his curved blade. The curved blade swung towards Tang Tian. His eyes were filled with fanaticism as he stared at He Yiming. His fists clenched so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard, and he said, "I'm coming." But he was after all a saint, with rich battle experience. He maintained his composure. Tang Tian had many flaws. He lacked the spirit domain. His entire body was full of flaws. He Yiming's wrist shook again. The sword tip trembled and was about to pierce out. Everyone suddenly understood and felt that Do Yang's words were very reliable. "Are you the only one who knows how to spin?" An intense pain came from his chin. Before he lost consciousness, He Yiming still did not understand. How did he lose? Bang, bang, bang. At the moment both parties came into contact, Tang Tian bellowed and punched out. The blade in Feng Yu's hand was very short, roughly 5 feet long, and shaped like a crescent moon. Tang Tian's gaze became even brighter. His body was like a leaf in the wind and swayed exaggeratedly. Tang Tian waved his fists frantically, but was still unable to stop his body and was slowly pushed back by the torrent of blade auras. No matter how hard he tried, his body was slowly pushed back. But Tang Tian very quickly used actual combat to tell them his terrifying battle instincts. As long as there was air, his sword techniques could unleash astonishing power. Tang Tian became even more excited. He suddenly realized he did not seem to have changed much from before. He suddenly thought of the last time he killed a saint. It was a brainless torrential downpour. No one understood. How did Tang Tian win? They only saw He Yiming's wrist twitching strangely. And then he was originally motionless, like a wooden pole, and was sent flying by Tang Tian's fist. Tang Tian was enraged. Smoke coming out of his 7 orifices, the young lad's spiraling energy back, then was also very experienced and proficient. Suddenly being forced into a difficult situation by the method he was proficient in, Tang Tian's unhappiness and rage increased exponentially. That year, when he created the spiraling energy, he was complacent for a very long time. Everyone's gaze turned to Do Yong and by CC. He did not dare to be careless. His spirit domain was fully opened. His sword pointed at Tang Tian, and he concentrated. And it was even stronger than Feng Yu's. Although until now, the martial artist still did not understand the essence of the martial spirit. But without question, the martial spirit and energy had an extremely deep connection, For example, the spirit domain of the saint rank was the martial spirit's imitation of energy. Although he did not have true power in his body, but the quality of his body became even stronger, this kind of brainless fighting method became even more powerful. The other saints all revealed astonished expressions. The energy around Feng Yu's surroundings became extremely dense and active, breaking the sound barrier. The torrent of blade auras seemed to have crashed into a reef and instantly scattered. The berserk and chaotic airflow in He Ming's eyes became extremely clear. He could clearly judge where Tang Tian would land. His wrist flicked, and he was about to swing his sword. His blood immediately boiled. Who's next? Feng Yu stepped into the field. A dazzling light spot beneath his feet became brighter, like a full moon. One after another, tiny bubbles emerged from the full moon, floating around him like boiling water. Blade Saint Feng Yu, who was invited by Liang Feng, immediately piqued everyone's interest. Saints were usually not familiar with each other. Everyone was filled with curiosity towards each other's spirit domain. Chapter 469. Liang Feng and the rest were already planning to advise Tang Tian to focus on constructing the spirit domain. Not like this, just like that. The dim and dangerous moon aura torrent suddenly rushed towards Tang Tian, who was surrounded by light. The other saints were shocked by Feng Yu's strength. In the eyes of ordinary martial artists, saints were already unreachable, and in their eyes, saints were already the strongest existences in the world. But among the saints, there were still differences in strength. The doubts brought by the zero-energy body did not even have this doubt, causing the saints to feel troubled. Since everyone had never seen the zero-energy body before, it was natural that they did not understand what it would do. But the spirit domain was something that every saint would spend their entire life to research. But all those common knowledge, laws, when used on Crazy Tang, were completely useless. Tang Tian muttered to the martial spirit little man in his heart. If Tang Tian could comprehend this technique, then it would definitely be a weapon to attack a city in a battle. As long as Tang Tian was released, everything would be settled once and for all. Tang Tian muttered in his heart, absorb a little more, absorb a little more. Once the blade aura torrent appeared, all the saints regained their senses, their faces changed. The moon aura in the torrent was no longer a complete crescent moon, but a broken blade aura. Feng Yu firmly grasped the initiative. His true power seemed to be endless. This was the strength of a saint. The spirit domain was able to spontaneously absorb energy to replenish the true power lost. So upon stepping into the saint level, the use of true power would decrease. This made everyone feel extremely weird. To normal people, the spirit domain was mysterious and unfathomable, but to the saints, the spirit domain was not a secret. There were two conditions to form the spirit domain. One was the purity of the martial spirit. The other was the understanding of the martial technique laws. Tang Tian was enraged. Asshole, use all your strength to suck milk. But every light belt was spinning in astonishing speed, producing a chi-chi sound. Amidst the surging moon blade torrent, countless of broken auras were like mist, being stirred up by the airflow, scattering and dispersing. But there were a few broken auras that were not affected by the airflow, slowly flying towards Tang Tian. However, although Tang Tian's martial spirit was extremely pure, it did not form a spirit domain. Two fragments of light slowly flew over. Before the light fragments could reach Tang Tian, they were annihilated in the air. Don't spin like that. Do you even know how to spin? Around his body, there were dazzling ribbons of light circling around him, as expected of a godlike young man. Saints would spend all their energy on constructing and perfecting their spirit domains. Every punch of his was aimed at the weakest point of the torrent of moonlight. Crane, Ling Su, and the rest were shocked by Feng Yu's might. The space around Feng Yu, the energy suddenly became extremely unstable and extremely dangerous. Tang Tian's eyes lit up like stars. This thought gave him a glimmer of hope. Being suppressed by Feng Yu's moon blade torrent, Tang Tian was extremely sullen. At this time, as long as there was a way, he was willing to try it. The surging torrent of moonlight rushed in front of him. The broken auras suddenly splashed out. The scene was extremely spectacular. The one who was surprised was Medical Saint Dingman. She was sharp enough to sense, inside the dazzling torrent, there seemed to be something forming. Feng Yu's expression was solemn, his eyes exploding with light. The moon spots beneath his feet floated up, becoming even more concentrated, big light bubbles exploding around him. If the previous boiling moon was just the initial boiling, then now it was the complete boiling. The saints were all prepared to take action, to prevent Tang Tian from being unable to hold on, and they had to take action to save him. Suddenly, someone exclaimed softly, "How could a martial spirit control energy that did not belong to him?" No one had told him before, so Tang Tian decided to first attract the energy over. A sesame seed-sized broken aura slowly floated towards him. Someone shouted. Everyone was startled. Did something happen to Tang Tian again? When they saw that Tang Tian was being suppressed by Feng Yu, the saints heaved a sigh of relief. All of them had smiles on their faces. Bang! How pure was Tang Tian's martial spirit. But if you think that my boiling moon is only limited to this, then you are underestimating me too much. Just a little bit of advantage, after accumulating time and time again, the effect produced cannot be underestimated. The martial spirit little person suddenly moved, raising his right arm, his palm extended out. Before entering the saint level, the control of true power was the complicated meridians, and after entering the saint level, the control of true power was the spirit domain. Yuming definitely had a psychological shadow and was unable to perform properly. That was why he was so easily defeated by Tang Tian. Tang Tian's expression almost froze, although he did not hope for it to be like a whale sucking in all rivers. But one was too shabby. Again, Tang Tian was overjoyed. This brat is pretty smart. Everyone was dumbstruck. They stared blankly at the dazzling light. Wait a minute, what is that? Tang Tian bang bang bang. On one side, he quickly waved his fists, and at the same time, he thought of a way to use his martial spirit to control the broken aura. For example, there was once a saint, Wang Shan, known as Bomb King. His spirit domain was very unorthodox. He could control the energy inside the star rocks and cause them to explode. No one dared to provoke this saint. The high-level star rocks contained a terrifying amount of energy, and the power of the explosion was even more astonishing. And this saint was a rich and overbearing tyrant. Once he made a move, it would be hundreds and thousands of star rocks. That kind of continuous explosion scene could instantly destroy an entire city. Even the blade, Aura, was unable to withstand such a terrifying power and broke. Feng Yu also admired Tang Tian. It was not that he had never seen martial artists with high physiques. For example, the martial artists that walked the path of Onyx Soul. The blood meridians he absorbed were strong enough. Their physiques would not be inferior to Tang Tian. Feng Yu also noticed Tang Tian's strange state, but he did not have time to think. It was rather strenuous for him to control this state. He slowly waved the curved blade in his hand. This is the power that a saint should have. Tang Tian stabilized his body. He was like a nail firmly stuck in the torrent of moon aura. Tang Tian knocked out He Yuming in 8 seconds. It made every saint almost go crazy. What a joke, to step into the saint level. All of them had put in a lot of effort. It was extremely shocking, but Tang Tian used such an unreasonable method to easily knock him out. It made their hearts unable to accept it. But just by relying on fundamental fist techniques to be able to contend against their own boiling moon, that was something that had never happened before. Inside the light, Tang Tian's flustered and exasperated scolding came out. Liang Feng and the rest's faces congealed. They could feel it even more clearly. The space around Feng Yu was faintly showing signs of instability. No one would have thought that Feng Yu, who had always been low profile, had actually reached such a realm. Tang Tian was overjoyed. He placed all of his attention on the torrent of moon aura in front of him. The torrent of moon aura was extremely turbulent, but Tang Tian had continuously released so many fists and had some insights. It was so pure that they could not even imagine it. When everyone's gaze landed on Tang Tian, they were stunned again. And this time, without needing Tang Tian's nagging, the martial spirit little person's hand was raised again. It was a spirit domain and not a martial spirit. There is a fundamental difference between the two. Look, crazy Tang. Well done. That's it. Suck it over, suck it over. Tang Tian's martial spirit was not only in the shape of a human. Its facial features were exquisite, vivid and lifelike. It was unprecedentedly exquisite. And in the actual test, it had proven their guesses. Tang Tian's martial spirit was already close to perfection. Everyone present was not mediocre. Ding Man's slight surprise immediately attracted everyone's attention. The martial spirit was a spirit formed from energy, and the spirit domain was a region formed from the martial spirit's imitation of the laws of nature. In this region, the deployment of true power was completely based on the martial artist's own set of rules. They had long realized that if the martial spirit was pure to a certain level, the formation of the spirit domain would become very easy. It was just that the spirit domain formed like that was not strong enough. And when the martial spirit was tempered to a certain level, improving again was even harder than gaining enlightenment on martial techniques. This fellow, the last ray of blade aura collided with Tang Tian's barrier and exploded into fragments. Only then did Tang Tian's figure was exposed. But Tang Tian was like a wild beast that did not know fatigue. He did not let go of any loopholes in the torrent of moon auras. Maybe this could only allow him to destroy a few more moon auras, but the frequency of his fundamental fist technique was extremely high, and the number of punches he released was equally astonishing. Before the martial spirit formed the spirit domain, without the power of laws, it was impossible to control true power. Other than a freak, everyone could not think of any other words to describe this fellow. But the saint's research on the spirit domain was obviously not limited to this level. Idiot, it's a spiral. It's not a rotation. Maybe he could use that energy. The number of moon auras released by Feng Yu was astonishing. It was endless. Its quantity completely made up for its weakness. It was a stupid method, but it was undoubtedly an extremely effective method. A long time ago, the saints understood, the stronger the martial spirit, the closer its shape would be to a human. This could be seen directly after death. Spirit generals were born from the martial spirit. All spirit generals were human-shaped. But such a pure martial spirit actually did not form a spirit domain. Tang Tian started to try to use the drifting energy. The only way he could think of was to use his own martial spirit. Ordinary martial artists, even if they were saints, would definitely not think of using the martial spirit to control the energy, because the martial spirit was unable to control energy. This was a common occurrence. As though feeling the anger in Tang Tian's heart, the martial spirit little person's efficiency increased by quite a bit. Another small hand was raised, and 4 shattered auras flew over. This time, there were 2 more flying shattered auras. The shattered auras did not even have the time to disperse, and were strangely absorbed into the light belt around Tang Tian. One after another, the light belts circled around Tang Tian at different angles, like the rings of satellites. The whistling torrent of light auras suddenly dimmed. It looked as though it was not as powerful as before. In the boiling space, Feng Yu's figure became blurry. All the flaws that flashed by were all small flaws. Not only were they extremely hard to catch, they were also useless in the battle. This was also why the saints, no matter how they looked at it, felt that Tang Tian was a freak. Tang Tian did not have true power in his body. The saints did not think much of it. There were many spirit domains that borrowed external energy. Chapter 470. Tang Tian thought about it and nodded. All right. Fortunately, he was fine. This thing could eat spirit cards. What was going on? Yaya was about the same size as the little man. The little man's appearance was extremely similar to Tang Tian's, but it was more exquisite and beautiful. It was like a porcelain doll, expressionless and neatly dressed. Yaya, on the other hand, was chubby. She had short legs and hands, a fat butt, and a meaty face. Yaya was even happier. Voila! He took out his drum set from somewhere and started beating it madly. Thus, everyone split into two groups. One group researched on reducing energy transformation, and most of them were blood meridian specialists. The other group researched on reducing spirit domain transformation, and these people were all saints. Liang Feng said in a low voice, "His Majesty seems to only be able to control the energy that has been defeated, but not the other party's saber gleam. Furthermore, His Majesty seems to be unable to control it as he wishes." What a bootlicker! I'm going to take a bath. The radiance was as dazzling as the sun, incomparably dazzling. Everyone nodded. When he saw the martial spirit little man eating the spirit cards like biscuits, kacha kacha kacha, he was dumbfounded. The martial spirit little person slowly floated up from the ground, with a halo around it. It circled around Yaya, flying faster and faster. The martial spirit minion tilted its face and looked at Yaya, while Yaya stared blankly at the martial spirit minion. But what shocked Tang Tian the most was, the martial spirit dwarf could eat spirit cards. The two of them brought the saint treasures of their respective constellations. "Your Majesty, it's not appropriate to leave this sacred treasure with us. I think Your Majesty should fuse with the holy treasure to calm the people." Bang! Tang Tian did not know the division of labor of these people. He was communicating with the martial spirit minion. Everyone cursed in their hearts that these sage-level masters still had some self-confidence in their identities. They were also much older than Tang Tian, so it was hard for them to say the word His Majesty, but Liang Feng could say it as soon as he opened his mouth. Yaya's head drooped. There was no change in the little person. She stared at Tang Tian with her eyes wide open. The circle of light rotated in rhythm with the drum set. He tried to give the martial spirit minion another spirit card, but the martial spirit minion ate it cleanly with a kacha-kacha sound, then looked at Tang Tian blankly. "She only eats and doesn't poop. Why is she like Yaya?" Tang Tian muttered. Tang Tian was even more dumbfounded. Even a saint could not look directly at such a dazzling light. Their vision was filled with whiteness. A shockwave so strong that it caused one's heart to palpitate swept out like a hurricane. Everyone's face changed. A few saints immediately blocked in front of the blood meridian specialists, activating their true power barriers. Ding, 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 ding. The broken air currents struck their barriers, sparks flying everywhere. Dingman nodded his head. "Zero energy body. We can call it de-energization. Tang Tian's method of controlling energy is completely not through the spirit domain. So can you call it removing the spirit domain?" Yaya's eyes were shining, and her mouth dragged out a long E, full of surprise and joy. He rummaged around on his body and took out a star rock and eagerly gave it to the martial spirit minion. "Kacha kacha, E." The torrent of moonlight fiercely clashed with the light around Tang Tian's body. With 7 sages, no one should dare to stop him. Tang Tian was dumbstruck. His jaw almost dropped to the ground. Everyone had their own thoughts, but there was one point, Big Dipper. As planned so far, these two discoveries were already extremely shocking. Bang! Tang Tian gave it again. The martial spirit minion ate the star rock with a kacha-kacha sound and took out a spirit card from nowhere and gave it to Yaya. The true power barrier was the most commonly used defensive method of a saint, and after obtaining the spirit domain, the true power barrier became simple and practical. And the removal of the spirit domain made everyone feel a chill. Tang Tian's gaze suddenly landed on Yaya, and immediately his eyes lit up. He purposely put on a gloomy face. "Yaya, I'll give you one day. Teach this fool. Oh, I'll call you little fool from now on. What is spiraling energy? Do you know the simple spiraling energy?" Feng Yu, who was not far away, forcefully used this technique, and like a wooden pillar, he fell to the ground and fainted. Dingman immediately appeared beside Feng Yu, checked, and raised his head. "There's nothing serious. I used too much strength." Tang Tian grabbed Yaya's leg with one hand, and the martial spirit minion's leg with the other, and lifted the two brats in front of him, his expression unkind. "Minion, I told you not to spin like this, and you still haven't learned it. The problem of strength that Tang Tian was most worried about was solved, and the haze in his heart was immediately swept away. There was nothing better than improving one's own strength, and when the Big Dipper plan was over, he decided to continue moving forward and find Xie. In the chaotic and turbulent times, the news of Ursa major constellation did not attract much attention. Walking out of the room, Tang Tian stopped. He was surprised as the star power concentration of Ursa major constellation seemed to have increased. The fusion of the constellation required the saint treasures of the constellation to be fused together. Although removing the energy transformation was subversive, but it was more useful for ordinary martial artists when it came to saint-level battles, unless it was close combat. Removing the energy transformation's physique was not enough to make the saint-level experts jealous. Jing Hao stood out. Let me try, I'm also very curious. Long Shou Jing and Angelina came together. Both of them had serious expressions. Obviously, there was something important. When the light aura dissipated, an astonishing big pit appeared in front of everyone. Hearing Ding Man's words, Tang Tian relaxed and continued to educate the martial spirit minion. If you turn it correctly, we might win. What was Tang Tian scolding? Crane also stood out. I also want to try. Tang Tian gave it another one. With a fierce face, he left angrily. Seeing Tang Tian's gloomy face, Yaya nodded his head. It swallowed the swallowing light steel fist. It naturally knew the simple, spiraling energy. The reason why saints were so strong was because they had spirit domains. If they could control energy and did not need spirit domains, then their advantage would decrease. Angelina said, Master Shou Jing is right. Ding Man looked at him and thought, this fellow still has a bit of a gentleman's demeanor. Tang Tian also had a headache. How could he teach the minion how to use the spiraling energy? How could this fellow be so stupid? He jumped out of the deep pit with a face of displeasure. The drumming stopped abruptly. Tang Tian was shocked by his own brilliant idea and left complacently. What? What was going on? Tang Tian's face was distorted. He clenched his teeth fiercely. You two are playing with me. Looking at Tang Tian's back, everyone became quiet. Two saints successively fell in front of Tang Tian. That was obviously not a coincidence. Even the most stubborn saint would think about how deep Tang Tian's strength was. Tang Tian was happy and laughed out loud. Actually, you two are brothers, right? The martial spirit minion's expression was a little dazed. Suddenly his eyes lit up. His two small fists clenched tightly. As though he was holding back his energy, the surrounding air started to revolve. In a moment, a bright halo formed around him. The halo started to revolve faster and faster. She coughed and said, Let me go first. From the looks of it, Tang Tian's strength is definitely enough to contend with a normal saint. His outstanding physique and pure martial spirit's intuition and judgment is also extremely terrifying. When these two are combined, their might is rather astonishing. Just now, Tang Tian even displayed another use of his martial spirit, which is to control the energy around him. I have two questions. One is, Tang Tian's physique is actually given to him by the zero-energy body, or does his body have a secret that we do not know of? The second question is, how does Tang Tian's martial spirit control energy? Regarding the zero-energy body, I think we can try it. Bing muttered. From Tang Tian's experience, it is the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique. Then can we say the sword auras have the ability to remove energy bodies? If it is, then what about the other auras? What about the blade auras? Also, the whirlpool sword spirit tempering technique's effect is so good. Can we lower its intensity? Make it more universal? I think we need to try it. Tang Tian, whose clothes were in tatters, black smoke curling up, stood in the pit and scolded. How stupid are you? I said not to spin like that. You still want to spin like that? You don't even know how to spin. What else can you do? What's the use of having you? Babbling sounds came out from behind Tang Tian. Yaya, who was bouncing around, saw the little martial spirit person and was stunned. I'll leave it to you. Oh, this is the homework. I'll check on it tomorrow. If little fool does not learn it, the two of you can just wait to be taken care of by me. Yaya became even more excited, jumping up and down, hitting the drum crazily, the little flag on his butt fluttered, looking extremely flirtatious. Bing had an unlit cigarette in his mouth and said, "All right, since that fool is not here, everyone can speak freely." He was the most suitable person to take charge of the situation. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief, but still felt suspicious. Yaya beamed with joy. Crunch, 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 he ate the spirit cards. Bing was obviously more interested in the first question regarding the removing energy transformation and removing spirit domain transformation. Bing's vision was completely different from the rest. Saints pursued the pinnacle of individual strength, but what Bing cared about was the increase in overall strength. If the removing energy transformation was truly effective, it would obviously be more widely used. Ling Su raised his eyebrows. "I'll do it too," Long Shou Jing said, with deep meaning. After a while, Tang Tian then reacted. To teach the martial spirit person how to spin, he thought of all sorts of ways to torment the martial spirit person. Thus, he had many new discoveries. For example, the martial spirit person could fly out of his body and would not disappear, leaving behind a dazed little fool with his eyes wide open and a distressed Yaya scratching his head. "Yaya, about Bear Egg, we still have not settled the score." Everyone became silent. On that day, Draco Constellation and Andromeda Constellation merged into Ursa Major Constellation. Ursa Major Constellation's light aura flourished. The new Ursa Major Constellation. All the constellations' star power density rose sharply. After playing for half an hour, this rascal had eaten an unknown number of spirit cards. Only then did Tang Tian stop. After sizing it up for a long time, there were no changes. The little rascal's stomach did not even swell. No one knew. The Big Dipper's 7 stars that had been sealed for many years, the star door had once again opened.